Check. Is this on? This work? No. How about now? Nothing. Now? Okay.
You're okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. City Clerk, could you please do a roll call to establish a quorum?
Councilmember Reardon,
Here.
Vice Mayor Sir,
Here.
Mayor Gunselman,
Here.
Councilmember Twift, Councilmember Feist.
Here.
We have quorum.
Will you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I'm going to make a small change in the order here. We have several members of our police force here to celebrate the swearing in of our newest officer. So we're going to go ahead and start with that, which is it's under 5A. It's a presentation. So we'll have Chief O'Connell come up to do that.
Good evening, council. Good evening, citizens, my coworkers, and everyone that's here that didn't fit into that category. It is with great pleasure that I am allowed to introduce our newest officer to you. Christina Stevens, right over there. Come over here, please. Joins us from Calaveras County Sheriff's Department. All right, you can come over here.
Yay.
And we're thrilled to have her join our police team. We're thrilled to have her family join our police family team. Everything we do in law enforcement, we do together, supporting each other. So it's good to have another person helping out and more family members to enjoy and have part of our team. Christina worked, as I said, with Calaveras County since 2021. So she's got some experience there. She also worked at Amador County Sheriff's Department as a correctional officer in 2020. So she comes to us with really good experience. She lives locally. She's lived in Sutter Creek in the past, lives locally now. So it's good to have someone that will be here in the community, strong ties to us in our way of life and how we do stuff here. So it's a thrill to have her. We like to have organizational excellence in our police department. And I tell you, we don't hire people unless they fit into that mold. And I believe that Christina is going to be excellent in what she does, and she's going to augment what we do as your police force and augment our team. So it is my great pleasure to introduce her to you. I know you'll see her downtown. You'll see her throughout everything we do here in the city, and should be a great addition to us. I'm allowed, and it's a thrill for me to swear her in to give her the oath of office. So I'm going to do that now, and I'm going to use my glasses because I'm old. So, and I'm going to give her one to read along with me. Raise your right hand, my friend. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Yeah. So the next thing we do, and she's been working for a couple of weeks now, but it's important to me that I introduce our new folks to you, that you see the ceremonial part. And that's the pinning of the badge. And I'd like for us to do that publicly. I've stated before in this room that that's a symbol of trust that you place upon us. So I like to do that in front of you, in front of the public, so you can see how important it is to us. We allow each employee to pick who they want to pin their badge. And I don't know why she didn't pick her chief, but she picked someone else that might be important to her. Who do you pick?
I picked my daughter and my son's gonna come up with her.
Excellent. Dalen, Aiden, come on up.
My daughter also. You know, my brother.
Hold that. I'm them first. That's about it. Excellent. Thank you. You want to say something to council and the public?
I would love to, yes. Good afternoon, everyone. This is my first week on days. I've been on nights for approximately a month, so it feels like morning still. First of all, it's an honor to be here, to have my family here, my stepdad, my daughter, my mother, my son, and my little sister, Kaylee. As the chief said, I do have prior experience, with Calaveras County. With that comes a huge, shift in change. It went from wanting to know the job to a change in what community I want to serve, and being a part of this community, having my kids so close, there was just not a better decision for me at this time of my life. So you guys saw the two most important things in my life, and I look forward to getting to know you guys.
Welcome aboard.
Good indulgence.
Indulge us for just a minute, guys. We're gonna. Full game.
Okay.
Okay. I knew I was doing this work.
This is a good question.
Nice background.
Place to be.
It's a neutral background. So far, so good. I need two earlier there.
She won't bite.
Nice shirt, good face, piece of gum. And I need to move that shirt.
Good.
Okay, 1, 2, and 3. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Happy to have you here.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Yeah, I'll remember that, yeah. Nice to meet you as well.
Big Kings fan.
It's Bulls, man. It wasn't King, it's Bulls. Michael Jordan.
No, but I asked. Favorite team.
You guys don't have to stay.
Nice to meet you all.
Yeah.
Nice to
Thank
meet
you.
you all. Thanks for coming.
Welcome.
Thanks for
Welcome.
coming. Appreciate it.
Okay, I'm about to open the public forum. At this time, the public is permitted to address the city council on items not appearing on the agenda. Comments may not exceed 5 minutes. In accordance with state law, however, no action or discussion may take place on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. We're always happy, the whole council is always welcoming and appreciating of the public participation. Before we begin, I just want to do a brief reminder of the procedures. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. Please refrain from applause or booing between speakers so that everybody feels comfortable sharing their views. Under the Brown Act, the council is not permitted to respond or engage in discussion on items that are not listed on the agenda. For that reason, the council will not respond to public comment this evening. However, your comments are important and they inform the council about the community's questions, priorities, and concerns when these topics come before us on a future agenda. The city manager's report, which follows the public forum, might include brief updates or information related to some items not on the agenda, but the council will not engage in discussion on those matters. So just so we all know how it works and so everybody has a chance to speak, I'm going to go ahead and open the public forum. So if anyone would care to address the council on an item not on tonight's agenda. Go right ahead. I forgot my notebook. I borrowed this paper.
Good evening, council. Thanks for serving our community. And I get 5 minutes, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And if my wife is here, can you give me another 5 minutes in case I need it? I'll just get going.
Okay.
So the city council members, I'm a semi-retired.
You state your name?
Mark Green Hospital, Sutter Hospital. I've seen the devastating effects of marijuana on the youth. I worked at a psychiatric facility in Missouri during my training, and we had schizophrenic people coming in like crazy, 16, 17, 18. And it's really terrible. We got to keep this out of our youth, without a doubt. There was a good letter to the editor in today's, March 13th, Friday the 13th, Ledger Dispatch. Please read it. It's about the youth. It's a California study, 370,000 California teens, and the bottom line is, if it's illegal in your community, they're a lot less likely to start usage. The problem is that once a 21-year-old man, he's at a significantly heightened risk of developing cannabis-induced psychosis and subsequently schizophrenia. Studies indicate that 30% of the schizophrenia cases in young men, 21 to 30, could be prevented if cannabis use disorder was eliminated. Once we have a dispensary in our community, pretty close to the high school, everybody looked at it, and now it appears socially acceptable, and the consumer has less concerns about the perceived risks. Since legalization in Colorado and Washington, ER visits and hospitalizations for psychosis with hallucinations, paranoia, and delusions has increased significantly. Ontario, Canada had an 83% increase in psychosis after legalization. Now, I know you guys have some really tough problems with budget, don't we all these days? And I wanted to, I don't want to be a block for, getting revenue coming in, but what you have to do is look at the study down in Fresno. The dispensary gives the city council projected sales. And then the city council was wise, they said, well, let's buffer that by 25%. Well, good thing they did, because their projected sales were up by a negative 43%. So any revenue that you expect to get, this was 9 dispensaries, and they all overestimated their sales by 68%. The city council put that into the projected revenue in the budget, only to find it led to a worse budget deficit mid-year than realized. So just be really careful about, the suspected revenue. I don't know if there's any other things you could do. I mean, more traditional thing I thought of was, what about, a parking meters? And we wouldn't want to destroy our down home atmosphere, but we can make it look like Dixie posts. And, got some good artists over with the Knife Foundry, you know, that's just a little light-hearted side note. But does it contribute to, does marijuana contribute to homelessness? Well, if you do a Google search, the AI does about 9 sites and says, you know, it isn't the main cause, but it could be a factor. And we were all taught med school, and most psychiatrists know cigarettes and nicotine products and marijuana is a gateway drug. The kid, myself included, gets to experience a different high, and then we think, well, maybe there's more. So you go on to marijuana, and then unfortunately, the kids that were in our psychiatric, the reason they got schizophrenia was they were using meth after using the introductory marijuana. Cocaine is a natural progression from all that. Fact is, Washington was the first one to legalize marijuana in 2013 to 2017. Homelessness in Washington went up 18.9%. Colorado legalized it and started selling it legally in 2014 to 2017. Homelessness went up 9.
30 seconds there.
So anyway, I'll send an email with these stats so you know that there's legitimate, and thanks for serving.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead. State your name, please.
Sure. Hello, I'm Lindsay Wood. And I'm Paul Brown. We're with Bed and Breakfast on Main Street, and we are here because the sidewalk in front of our business is disrepair in a major way. It's like the only sidewalk in all of Main Street that has asphalt. We have a ton of our clients, our guests are elderly with mobility issues. It's a big concern. If they come out of our property and they're on this street and fall down, it stresses us out every single time. So, yeah, that's really it. How big was it? 60 by 60 feet?
60 by 40.
60 by 4.
Sidewalk that needs to be repaired. You guys came in last December, right after purchase, and did some patching on the asphalt, but it is truly the only, it's an asphalt sidewalk in Main Street. Many clients?
232 reservations we had last year. It's our very first year. We opened in March, so we're just still getting started and almost surpassed that so far in March. So we expect a lot of business, a lot of customers this year. Just wanted to make it safe for them to be able to exit.
Can I ask the name of your business?
Brentwood Bed and Breakfast, where
There we go.
Foxes used to be. Yeah. And it's a beautiful old building with like janky sidewalk in front. That's kind of the worst part. Because right next door, we've got Sutter Creek Inn, beautiful sidewalk. And then ours kind of,
The ground that Sutter Creek Inn, obviously, the full
Yeah.
and they do a lot of work to the garden as well, so I find most people stop.
yeah.
Stop and look over the fence and like how the yard out there, so it's certainly beneficial. Business as well as
That's all.
Thank
guys.
you. Thank you.
They're a lot. Oh, I don't know if it's on. They were a lot taller than me. Hi, my name's Ellen Brittingham, Mayor. I just wanted to take the opportunity during public comment to introduce myself.
Can you hear?
Oh.
Go right
If
ahead.
you speak
There you
right
go.
into the mic.
Oh,
Because
okay.
Because it's recorded and people are on.
Oh, yeah, no problem. So Ellen Brittingham, I just wanted to take the opportunity during public comment to introduce myself. I'm your new local government relations representative for PG&E. So I have some contact information for myself. I do not have business cards yet. I'm on my 4th week, but wanted to come put a face to my name. I look forward to being a resource and a partner to you and your staff. I have my family has farmed in Amador County. I'm a Calaveras County native. I currently live in San Joaquin County. Those are the 3 and Alpine County communities that I'll be serving in this role. And so it's a real homecoming for me to be in this role and to be someone you can rely on. So I can leave my information with the city clerk so that you have it. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer, but that's all I have for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm glad to see that you've taken this on because we used to have an office, a PG&E office at Martell that was staffed. They closed it years ago. And when you have a problem and you want to talk to a person, it's been very difficult. So I'm very glad that you're taking this on.
Thank you.
And I have a problem I'll be talking to you about.
Thank you. Anyone else on an item not on the agenda? Not.
Well, hello again. As a reminder, my name is Josh Lewis. I am Government Community Relations Manager for Embark. For those of you who don't know, we're the folks in discussions about the cannabis dispensary. Here today to really just share an update and ask for your help. We are hosting the first of several of our community listening sessions this Sunday at 5 p.m. It's going to be over at Kyoto Inn. We're in the Zinfandel room. Selfishly, I'm getting Gold Dust Pizza. It's been a while. Very excited for it. Otherwise, just wanted to say, we're really much looking forward to that conversation. If anyone here is, speaking on the item, we'd really encourage you to come out where you take a custom approach whenever we build a store in a community. It's something that, we want to make sure truly represents the thoughts and the concerns of neighbors, that we have an opportunity for that dialogue. So to the extent you all have heard from people that are opposed to this project and opposed to the idea of cannabis in Sutter Creek, feel free to pass along the invite to our session on the 22nd. We look forward to a really robust dialogue.
What time, Josh?
It's 5 p.m.
5.
at Kyoto Inn.
Where?
So, and I will, sorry, sir, my bad.
Sorry.
I'll also just say I am unfortunately spending the night at Kaiser Roseville tonight, so I won't be able to join you through the rest of your meeting. I'm gonna have to take off here in just a minute, but really appreciate the time and looking forward to sharing more on Sunday and open invite. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak on an item not on the agenda?
Hello, I'm Andrea Roberts. I'm the owner of Evergreen Emporium, the CBD store.
Ma'am, can you speak louder, please?
Yeah, am I not in the, hello? That's better.
There we go.
I don't know how to use mic. Down is better? Okay. My name is Andrea Roberts. I'm the proud owner of Evergreen Emporium for the past 7 years. That's the local CBD store here in Sutter Creek. I want to address a couple of items. First item would be cannabis-induced psychosis. Just ask yourself, do you know anyone who has that? But then also ask yourself, how many people do you know who are alcoholics? So if there's a problem with one of those, I'm pretty sure it's alcohol. The other one is considered medicine, and we can go into that another time. I'm concerned that right now that the gentleman from Embark is asking us to go for a meeting, not here with the city council. Why would we have a private meeting with someone that is this approved? Is this, I'm not understanding that at all. I'm here tonight also to express my disappointment and frustration with the lack of transparency and fairness in this decision-making process regarding the potential cannabis business in Sutter Creek. My question one is, if this is open in Sutter Creek, does this open up for all of Amador? Because all the other cities will follow suit, I'm sure. In the past 10 years of legalization of recreational use, the market has definitely become saturated. Here in Sutter Creek, within about a 20-mile radius, we have more than 11 dispensaries and more deliveries than that delivered to Sutter Creek. They have a ping on weed maps. So the revenue for this opportunity is dwindling. Despite my efforts to communicate the importance of embracing the cannabis industry to the city for years, the council has consistently refused. I've personally reached out to the council since 2020 to try to make them understand the importance of getting in on the cannabis to increase the city's revenue. They refused, so my question is, why now? The decision to possibly grant a license to Embark, a company with 12 dispensaries already, raises the question about the integrity of the decision-making process. This would be Embark's 13th dispensary of their goal of 24 dispensaries. All the other dispensaries have a population of mostly over 100,000 people. A couple have 60,000 people where they have their dispensaries. So why Sutter Creek with 2,600 people? I don't think that Embark came to us, is my deduction by the math. I'm assuming someone reached out to Embark or reached out to a dispensary. Why bring a corporate entity when a local business has paved the way? And why prioritize corporate entities over local businesses that have already established themselves in this community? I do think the transparency and the lack of accountability is alarming, and I don't think it serves the best interest of our community. I think the city should continue to support local entrepreneurship and economic growth while preserving the charm and well-being of Sutter Creek. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Anyone else care to comment on an item not on tonight's agenda?
Hello, y'all. Pete Jensen, Sutter Creek, Green Nickerson, been here for years. Instead of complaining about everything for once, I want to say something. I know who did the deal up here to clean up the bushes, where the curve is. Great job. Thank you. It looks fantastic, you know, and that's what we need is stuff like that. Next thing is on Main Street where the palace used to be, that looks terrible. We need to get rid of the tarps. We need to put some fencing up like happened over there in Jackson when the rifle theater burnt down over there. We need to do something that looks attractive. Possibly we could get the Native Sons of California to donate labor. We can get the materials and stuff like that. Maybe we can get our attorney to donate his time for the legalities of making it happen, but it needs to happen. The other thing that needs to happen is the lawyers joint up there on Sutter Hill looks like hell.
What?
Last time we talked.
Could you repeat that, Pete? The what?
Looks like hell.
No, but what are you speaking? of? I got that part. It looks like hell.
The lawyers up there.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I mean,
Thank you.
whatever, you know.
Thank you.
And last time we talked, somebody brought it up last time, and the city manager says, well, we'll get the, whatever, the code enforcer. Well, why can't the city manager, lawyer, this, that, or something like, go up and get it taken care of? I understand, he's a lawyer up there too, so it's not gonna be a lot of fun. He ain't gonna go easy, but it needs to be taken. How many rats are running around? Second thing, the marijuana deal, reefer madness, 2026 does not work. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, hearing nobody, I'm going to go ahead and close the public forum and we'll go to the city manager's report.
Good evening, council. Just a couple of quick responses to some of the comments you heard tonight. Unfortunately, the couple at the bed and breakfast left. Dan and I went to look at that sidewalk last week. It is a historic greenstone sidewalk. Oh, I'm sorry, you're still here. I thought you walked out. But it does have asphalt on it. And so we were going to look at in the upcoming budget if we can budget some funds to make that part look a little bit better. But it's definitely on our radar. And then it'll be further my update, but the Kyoto End meeting, that was news to me. So it's good. The visitor center is looking at the palace, and we've been sharing some historic banners that they're looking at getting created to at least make it look a little bit better. We've asked the property owner to put up a nicer fence. He didn't want to do that. But we are looking at how we can make that site look a little bit better with some historic images of what was there kind of over the years. And then we did go up to Mr. Shell's place last week. We did not talk to him, but we've reviewing the ordinances. I'll get to that when I get into my code enforcement update. So a lot of things since the last council meeting. The city put in 2 requests with our U.S. senators, Schiff and Padilla, for money for the planning of the new wastewater site. We got letters of support from our state senator and two county supervisors. So we'll see what happens. No guarantees. Dan, our public works director, and I went to a meeting with the regional water board today, where we presented our progress so far on the planning around the new wastewater plant. Doesn't happen often, but we actually got compliments from the water board, which is quite nice. And so we gave them a high level overview of all the work that we've done so far. And you know, we're going to keep checking in to get a new permit for a new plant. Takes up more than a year. We're well in advance of that and talked to them, but I think they appreciated it. They had the folks in the meeting to deal with discharge into creeks or into water. But everybody seemed very positive that it was a good move. Kind of related to that, we've also installed smart meters in various places around town to really qualify our influent and try to figure out, we have some industrial users trying to figure out where a lot of biosolids are coming from that will drive up the cost of the plant. Most likely, we're going to have to roll out a pre-treatment program for 3 or 4 folks, and it will really help drive down the cost of the plant to prevent that from getting to the plant.
Is that different than the other thing we're looking at, the oil grease?
It could be related. There could be some things more specific than just the oil and grease program. And then we've been meeting with Schneider Electric every other week for 4 months now. We're going to have a special workshop to really look at a couple of different scenarios that look to be the most promising, as we've been looking at the flood zone down there and various kind of regulatory impacts. And kind of separate from that, but we're also looking at various financing scenarios. Part of this has to do with the grants we already got for the solar and the battery storage. There's some questions around the timing. To maintain the award of that money, we have to sign a construction contract by a certain date. And then we may or may not want to start construction. So there's some trade-offs to be made about delaying that construction until we have more of a big picture versus getting some of it started. So we'll come back to you with that once we really analyze kind of the financial scenarios. It is a little bit complicated.
Tom, is there the opportunity to initiate a contract for a partial in order to meet the requirements
Yeah.
so we can just get going?
Right.
Yeah.
And we could do that contract and maybe not even start construction for a year. And then we could ask for an extension, but we have to watch the timing and not lose the money.
Thank you.
And the more we extend, the cost of construction goes up over time. So that's kind of the financial modeling I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And our lease runs up on the other system in 8 years now?
Yeah. On the economic development front, Claire was there. I did go to the Council of Tourism meeting, talk about the crew car. Hotel Sutter is interested in working with us to try to figure that out. So again, this would be a car for pilots to get from the airport to town and help support our businesses. The main issue is insurance and liability. So I'm going to be working on that with them to see if we can maybe split the cost or something. We'll figure it out. Also had another interesting discussion with this effort it's based in Modesto, but it covers 3 counties. It's called Beam Circular. They're looking at kind of bio reuse. So it's biogas, but it's really recycling of any agriculture, forestry project. And they've raised like over $90 million to help companies get started in that region. So looking at, is there a way we could work with them? There's a lot of potential forestry reuse or things that are more common up in the Sierras versus the Valley. And if that doesn't work out, are there any ideas we can borrow or steal from them? So it was a very interesting conversation. We got some interesting things going on there. And then just on the cannabis front, so again, there's been a lot of kind of discussion in the community. I just wanted to kind of reemphasize kind of where we are. So the company, it looks like the representative left, but company approached the city with a proposal for a limited pilot. The council decided that they would consider an application if it was submitted. And at this point, nothing's been submitted. So we're basically waiting an application. You know, at the time, the company did say that they would hold some open houses to communicate with the community. So I think that's what they announced tonight. I would encourage people that are interested to attend, ask their questions. If they do submit a proposal, we will also have an open forum with council, and there'll be another opportunity. But that's kind of where we are. We were not soliciting it. There's no other plan going on right now. or anything.
Tom,
Yeah.
I have a concern. I'm glad, Josh came this evening, announced the public meeting as they were supposed to do. My concern is it's less than a week away. It's also Dandelion Days weekend. My concern is being able to get the publicity out about the meeting.
Yeah, it's
And
not our
having-
meeting though. It says meeting.
Okay,
I mean,
and
okay.
having adequate space, because I foresee, just based on the feedback that came in our packet from letters being sent, that there's a high level of interest, and I'm concerned of the space.
So I'd suggest maybe reaching out to him, sharing your concerns, and I don't know how they're promoting their meeting, but they're,
Well, I'm asking that the
Yeah.
city as a whole or the council send a formal request to have it in an adequately sized space and with adequate time ahead of time to,
yeah, I mean, it's not our meeting. We're not really involved. So,
okay.
I mean, Keodian's
but
one
it's
of the,
fixed.
Keodian's one of the largest places I can think of, but in the city.
Would the auditorium be available?
I mean, they didn't approach us to rent it. But again, I think it's their meeting. You know, you can talk to him and suggest these things, and it's up to them.
I do want to think it's important in my mind, to note that our current ordinance does not allow a commercial cannabis operation. And in my mind, before we would be able to even consider accepting an application, we would have to change our ordinance first.
Yeah. So again, I think that would be something they would probably be proposing if that's what they propose. And on the code enforcement site, so
It's not an agendized item. This was just the city manager's report.
Our history and the way they operate, when can I have that?
It's not an agendized item, so that was when you spoke on the items not on the agenda.
But if this,
You had you took that opportunity.
but there'll be other opportunities to do that down the road.
Yeah,
Yes.
right, exactly. There's no decisions being made tonight. All that we heard was the announcement of the first meeting. That is not our meeting, so no problem.
yeah. So Pam and I went out and visited kind of the most egregious code enforcement sites along with Larry. And then we also had a call with Derek and an attorney in his office who kind of specializes in code enforcement. So, as one of the speakers pointed out, one of the people is an attorney. We are looking very carefully at what's in our ordinances. There may be some updates we want to make to our ordinances. And again, we are anticipating that we're going to have a little bit of, I don't want to call it a war chest, but a budget to support some more firm code enforcement actions. So
I think that came up as part of our priorities for this next year anyway. So we were contemplating increasing the budget around that space anyway. So I think that
so
fits.
it's a little bit of trying not to get ahead of ourselves. So we
Yeah.
don't have the money budgeted, but that's kind of where we are.
Yeah.
So currently, the gas station site, it's just going to keep going. I mean, they can keep adding on, as I believe
mean,
they
there's a lot
had
of,
just the
a lot
last
of
couple of weeks.
complications with each site.
Yeah,
Some of them are, really the city would go after the property owner. It's not, some of these are tenants. And so those are kind of the decisions we'll bring back to you guys.
Oh, I was
Uh,
thinking specifically about the place up on the
Yeah.
corner.
So again, that's a tenant, it's not the owner. So we would have to go after the owner.
Okay.
So.
All right. Thanks, Tom.
And then we are looking at having a ribbon cutting ceremony around our new bathroom in Bryson Park. I did want to poll you guys quickly because I did send out another email today. How many of you could make it Thursday, 2:30?
Thursday at 2:30?
Yeah.
I can make it.
I'll be out of town.
Okay. And then Wednesday at 11:30?
Gone.
Do we get to pick between the two?
One of the,
Yeah, just say if you can meet both or, yeah. How many people can make Wednesday?
I may be able to.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I could do Wednesday, but not Thursday. I'm leaving Wednesday night.
Okay.
You're not talking about very much time, right, Tom?
I know. It'll be 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And okay, I'll let you guys know tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And then, yes, we've started cleaning up Sutter Hill Road. Thanks for noticing.
it looks like
Um,
it.
We've got a pretty big plan for the whole street. So we had a great meeting last week with the fire district, with the conservation, Amador Conservation, Campbell Construction, and our Public Works team. So we do have CAL FIRE going up, clearing out a lot of the brush. We are going to be closing the street in stages. We'll be communicating, sending out notice to actually bring down some trees, trim some of those trees that are hanging over the roadway. And basically you'll see a lot of that this month and next month. And then we're going to go out to bid for paving, and we're anticipating paving kind of probably August timeframe. We also had the land trust, which owns the land on the other side, in that meeting. Everybody's working together. We're trying to see how much we can get done for as little money as possible. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Will we get an opportunity to see the what the engineers come up with, or
For sure. Yeah.
Great. Okay.
And you were still going to bring us an idea of how much it would cost to put some of our money in, maybe Measure P money to do the shoulder and some pedestrian.
Yeah. Still
Sweet.
waiting for those engineering estimates. And then you guys passed the idea of the pump track at Bryson Park. So that was submitted. And we got like an immediate positive reaction. So we'll see. Hopefully we get that grant.
I had a third grader ask me if he could come speak on the project, and I said that we already passed it. So he wrote a letter to go with the grant submittal.
That's awesome. And then just a bunch of other things. So the finance ad hoc and Chief O'Connell and I met with Amador City representatives. I think we generally had a pretty positive discussion. Then the county sheriff, I think, also presented at their most recent council meeting. So it'll be on your agenda. I think for our next meeting, we'll bring you some updates on kind of where we are, both with the county and with Amador City.
Tom, I just wanted to reiterate our request to invite the sheriff to that also, since he has given us a bid for something. Let's invite him here so we can ask questions, and all that's in public record and everybody knows what's going on and why we're doing it.
Okay.
And where we land.
And then, yeah, we're starting to get our summer pool plans in order. So I think we have a really great pool director on board. We're going to start recruiting for lifeguards. We are probably not going to start selling passes till like the third week of April. And, we talked about kind of walking before you run. So we'll probably have less programs than were offered last year. Right now, the intent is to have rec swim, lane swimming, and private swim lessons, but not offer group lessons the first year. Just because we think it's a challenge of staffing and getting organized.
Are we planning to have another 4th of July party?
We are.
Good.
And then I've also had a discussion with the superintendent, and we're working on a kind of mutual MOU to share facilities without charge to each other. We've we've done that for some time, but now that ACRA is dissolved, the school district wanted to charge us for some rec programs. And so I asked that, hey, can we make this a two-way street? And they seem open to that. So we're working on that. And kind of related to that, our adult basketball league is starting this Sunday. It's the first game. It's going to go for 10 weeks and then there'll be a playoffs. So we have I think we have 8 teams signed up at this point.
That's great. Hey, Tom, speaking of the school district, I just wanted to point out quickly that I know I sent you a picture of that wet spot on the sidewalk on Spanish Street that's been wet forever and people slip on it all the time. Apparently, your communication with them was effective in that they did some work on the hillside and put some business down at the bottom, berming the wetness, but they haven't solved the wetness problem. There's still a leak somewhere. And so if you talk to them, you might just want to point that out because the bad thing happened once and it's going to happen again if they don't solve the core problem. Yeah. Thank you.
I was going to spring break, but somebody was there. So, and then a couple of pictures here. So, we purchased this new dump trailer. So we've had kind of a dump truck or repair to our dump truck on our list for a while. Dan LaFontaine recommended instead of that, we actually purchased this trailer. It's a lot more usable and we can get it around different spots. So, we can tow that with any of the big pickup trucks. And then when they also did a bunch of stop line planing, these are just a few of them, but they took advantage of spring break and painted a lot of the ones around the school.
They look great.
Yeah.
And then also just so you guys know, there's been kind of extensive weed spraying going on the last several weeks. And again, in terms of community events, got Behind the Cellar Door, wildflowers and wine coming up. Spring Fling. I don't know why I can't speak. Spring Fling on April 17th. And then the duck race on the 25th. And again, the duck race is a big nonprofit fair. It's an opportunity to raise money that gets used by nonprofits kind of throughout the year. So it's great to see this event back in its second year. And then the last thing, sorry, going the wrong direction. In your April agendas, so we're kind of developing themes of council meetings. So tonight's kind of a planning themed one. The next one is going to have a lot of law enforcement. And then in April, we'll also be starting work on the budget. So again, the mid-year expenses, the long-range financial forecast. And then things like the local hazard mitigation plan have been being developed by the county for some time. It's now time to adopt that. So that'll be coming to you. And hopefully we'll have kind of an update on code enforcement probably in the second meeting. And I think that's it. That's my updates.
Thank you, Tom. Council, did you have any more questions for Tom or we kind of stopped him as we went? Okay, that takes us to the approval of the minutes from March 2nd.
I have a correction that needs to be made on packet page number 9. On the bottom, motion made by council directing staff to apply for the ACF grant. Under the vote, it lists all of us as ayes, none, whereas Mayor Gunselman, myself, and Jim were the only 3 in attendance. So it reads as if all 5 of us voted aye.
Oh, okay. The number, okay.
Yes. So it should be 3 ayes and 2 absent.
Anything else?
Yeah. On the top of page 9, in regards to whether to retain the city treasurer as an elected position, it says no motion was made to direct staff to prepare a resolution which would convert the city treasurer position. Blah. And then on the next line, it says the motion did not pass. That should be scratched because there was no
Yeah.
motion.
Mhm.
Okay, do you have those changes, Pam?
Yes, I do.
Anything else?
I move that we approve the minutes as corrected.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Can you call a vote?
Councilmember Reardon?
Abstain, I wasn't here.
Okay. Vice Mayor Cirque?
Aye.
Mayor Gunselman?
Aye.
Councilmember Swift?
Aye.
Councilmember Feist?
Abstain.
Okay, motion carries. There's nothing on the consent agenda. That takes us to public hearing. I'll open a public hearing after a brief staff report on reintroducing a moratorium on short-term rentals until we establish an ordinance.
So this is technically not a reintroduction. It's the introduction of a new ordinance. I'm being a little bit picky, but a concern based on some of the statutes is that if we just simply readopt the same thing we did before, there may be some potential drafting and legal issues associated with that. So this is, in theory, it's broader. It's a moratorium on temporary residential uses. It will include short-term rentals, but if there is some other type of residential use that we might allow that would be in a temporary nature, that might create some of the same issues. So, because there was only 3 of you at the last meeting, we had to do it this way. We could not have moved forward. I did not believe we would have been able to get another meeting together. And so in theory, yes, you are reintroducing something, but it is a little bit different. It's technically a different ordinance, but it has the same impact, and it will give you the space to look at the short-term rental issue. But if there's any other types of short-term residential or temporary uses, it's something that we could also fold those in. So really tonight, I'm asking you simply, it's at your pleasure. It is a 4/5 vote. It is the same findings. I believe the ordinance is drafted in a legally correct manner. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but obviously you've been talking about the subject, several hours so far, and we've got some more to go tonight when you get to the item below. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but tonight you do need a 4/5 vote. And if you introduce this, we will have to come back at your second meeting in April to extend it.
Okay.
And then we can extend it until, up to this day in 2027. And then at that point, if we're still working on this, I suspect we won't be because we're making good progress, we would be able to extend it for another year. And we will have to publicly notice the hearing in April, which I will work with the city clerk to make sure happens if you approve this ordinance tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions.
And just for anybody that's not been here for this before, this is temporary. So when we do resolve the issue and adopt an ordinance, we can cancel the temporary moratorium at any time. Derek, the other temporary residential uses that this would cover would all be things that would still require conditional use permits, right? They're
Correct.
things that would come
Yeah.
to us.
Yeah, it's essentially, we're looking more holistically and broadly at what any other types of uses. So we're casting a broader net in theory. I don't know that as a practical matter, I'll just be blunt, that there really are other things, but I wanted to draft this in a little bit different way to cast a broader net in the event that we need a broader net. But I'm trying to sort of solve for the problem, which is give you space to formulate the short-term rental issue, but I'm taking just a slightly different angle, but it will get you the same space that you need to debate the things you're going to debate tonight, and ultimately allow me and the staff to present a long-term ordinance to you.
So this doesn't affect anything current. So
Correct.
I
Yeah,
just
we
want
do
to
not-
make sure that
Yeah,
was clear.
yeah, we don't
for
have any
everyone.
applications pending.
And
No, yeah.
we need to do this before we really adopt an ordinance covering short-term rentals. So this
Yeah.
has to happen before we can do that.
Well, it doesn't have to happen, but people are maybe submitting applications and you're going to have to process them while you're trying. It's It's the build the plane
Yeah.
while you're flying it problem that we
Yeah.
want to avoid.
Got it.
And so if you adopt this tonight, we can tell people, listen, just stand down. We're moving quickly. Come to our meetings, give input on the ordinance if you want to be heard. But we need you to hold off a little bit so we can have something permanent in place.
So just
you, Derek.
very briefly then, Derek, to say that another way, if we do this 4/5 tonight, we're just reaffirming what we did before. That's going to give us some time to get this thing and get it done right.
As a practical matter, yes, on paper, it's a little broader.
And I understand why, and I have no problem with that. Thank you.
This does require a public hearing. So are there any other council questions? So the way this works, I'll open it up for the public. So we'll hear the public before the council deliberates. And I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. So this is, if anyone would like to speak on just the issue of the temporary moratorium until we have a short-term rental ordinance, that would be now. A couple items down, we're going to have a discussion about the actual short-term rental ordinance. So the public hearing is now open. I don't see anybody, so I'm going to close it. Council, did you have any deliberations or does anyone want to make a motion?
If there's no deliberation, I would motion that we approve the moratorium as presented by Derek this evening.
Second.
Pam, can you call for a vote?
Councilmember Reardon,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Cirque,
Aye.
Councilmember Swift,
Aye.
Councilmember Feist,
Aye.
Mayor Gunselman.
Aye. Okay, that does it for the public hearings. We'll move on to our administrative agenda. And the first item A is approve the updated impact fees based on the new Nexus study. And we've seen this before, so this is step 2, right, in the process?
Correct. Yeah, so I really don't have much of a presentation tonight. We went through the Nexus report in detail previously. We took your feedback and we public noticed the rates that are in your report. And they're basically much simpler than the old impact fees that we had. Just happy to answer any questions. So.
Council, did you have any questions for Tom before I open it up to the public? Tom, or I guess Aaron, it's Nexus fees. Is that you, Aaron?
Just in time.
Yeah.
I had a question, the fee comparison, table ES-3, illustrative per unit conversion, maximum supportable capital facilities fee. Fire is not considered in there where it's considered in other sections. Page 28 of the packet.
Is that within the Nexus study itself?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we just passed through the fire fees. The city doesn't set those fees. The fire district sets them. So that may be what you're seeing there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure which page you're on. I could try to pull it up.
Page 28 of the packet.
Do you know what page it is of the Nexus study?
It's page
4.
4.
Roman numeral.
Roman numeral 4.
Right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're just asking why fire's not on here? Yeah,
Correct.
and that's because it's a pass through. And again, the Nexus study really set the maximum fee level. You guys have said, let's come in well below that. That's what we're doing.
Okay.
Any other questions from
I-
council?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Did the public have any questions on this item? Okay.
I had one
Oh.
other question, and something tells me, I went through my notes and I can't find that we talked about this before, but anyway. Regarding the park and rec fee and Nexus findings, I understand the current 8 acres per 1,000 residents that we have now of recreational space, but preferring the standard of 4.5 acres per 1,000 residents for the future.
Yeah.
So that's almost a 50% drop. So I'm concerned or curious, I'll put it that way. Curious as why the large drop in recommendation.
Yeah, I think, I believe when we went over this with the consultant that it's tied to state law. You know, we're looking at fully built out scenario, which take 100 years to happen, but
I
Um,
think I
If
can
it does.
answer that. Yeah, when we did this before, remember Accra used to do the 1,000-page nexus study for parks. It was when I first got on council and I thought I had to read the whole thing and I did. Our park acreage allotment was based on the Gold Rush specific plan, I think. So it was much bigger than what we actually have for a
Right.
population. So this adjusted it back down to the size we truly are.
yeah, I
Okay.
think was part of our challenge is we don't.
That
have
was
that
part of the
many
issue with the
parks.
park fee too. All these things had kind of,
Yep. And we looked at our sphere of influence and included, you know, some things near the city, but we tried to get as much as we could. But
any other questions?
All I had.
Okay, no one from the public. All right, then we can deliberate or hear a motion.
I move that we approve the updated impact fees based on the new Nexus study according to the resolution as presented.
yeah, and I think also accept the study itself.
Oh, just the,
And accept this.
and accept the study, yes.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Second. All right, Pam?
Vice Mayor Cirque,
Aye.
Councilmember Feist,
Aye.
Councilmember Reardon,
Aye.
Councilmember Swift,
Aye.
Mayor Gunselman.
Aye. Takes us to item B, the master fee schedule. We went over
This is very
this last
similar.
time. Yeah.
This is a second hearing. City clerk made a few of the changes that you requested. I think those were highlighted in the staff report. And again, I think we're here to answer any questions.
Okay, we'll start it with council.
I didn't have any questions. Thank you.
None.
Any additional questions should say that this reflects the points we brought up last time we went through this.
No.
Okay, Susan, are you good? Yes. All right. Did the public have any comments on this, the new draft master fee schedule? Okay, we're gonna bring it back to council then for deliberation and a vote, but I did want to say, I really appreciated the breakdown in the beginning at how we look at these things and how we determine if we want to recover our cost or if it is a community benefit. I think that's helpful communication for all of us, and I think it really shows in paper form the city's commitment to providing as many services as we can for the city within our budget. There's nothing else. Someone can make a motion.
I'd motion to adopt the resolution for the draft master fee schedule for fiscal year 26-27.
I'll second.
Pam?
Councilmember Reardon,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Cirque,
Aye.
Councilmember Feist,
Aye.
Councilmember Swift,
Aye.
Mayor Gunselman.
Aye. Okay, takes us to 9C, the annual progress report to HUD,
Yes.
HCD, I mean.
Thank you. So in front of you tonight is the city's annual progress report for the year 2025. Each year, the city reports to the Department of Housing and Community Development about our progress on our RHNA numbers, our regional housing needs allocation, which is a number that's given to us for each housing element cycle of what our goal is housing production wise. And we also report on our housing element programs. The first couple charts in that big document is the units that we have entitled, permitted, and finalized. So they ask us to track those things. So entitlement, when they come to planning commission, get their site plan permit, or if they get a building permit, those are entitlements and building permits. And then the finals is when we actually get to count those units. So over the last year, in 2025, we finalized 4 units, 1 ADU, 1 duplex, so 2 units there, and then 1, actually, hold on, now I'm sorry, we did not final those, permitted those 4 units. So ADU, duplex, 2 units there, and then a single family home. What I did differently this year than I have in previous years, I reached out to those property owners and I asked them what their plans were they going to rent them, sell them, and if they had any idea of those rates. With that information, I'm able to plug it into a spreadsheet that the state has that then pops out what the income level is. So we're able to then put them in the appropriate income level categories to get credit for what they are. So extremely low here in this case, and then moderate, 2 units in moderate. And I did not hear back from the person who's building the single family home. So I categorized that as above moderate. Additionally, we've made some progress on some of our programs. The County Housing Working Group continues to meet on a regular basis. We've added information about accessory dwelling units to our website. DRC continues to review modifications to buildings within the historic district. The one to note is the church up on Gold Dust Trail. The DRC spent a lot of time working with the applicant there on how we can preserve as much historical significance in that building and reuse things, and then also honor the history that's there with the plaque, stuff like that. Another really big one was that our supportive housing project, Danco, was granted their home key funding in October, and the city assisted them in that application. And that is the type of stuff that the state just loves to see. So that project is underway, and we're reviewing their building permits now, and we will get to add those units to our APR next year, which is great. We also worked on Program 19, which is our water and wastewater infrastructure capacity. I think you're all very much aware of the work that Tom's been putting into those improvements, the contract for the new wastewater plant. Again, the Nexus study goes into that. So we have a lot of really good things to report this year. A few months ago, Tom and I actually met with HCD to go over our 2024 APR, and the representative gave us some good tips on how to add to, she wanted to see some more information in some of our programs. And I really think we probably weren't giving ourselves credit for as much as we were doing on our program. So I think that was a good meeting, and we were able to expand on a lot of the work we've done. So the Planning Commission reviewed this at their last meeting and recommends that the City Council accept it and direct me to submit it to HCD. I can answer any questions you might have about it. This report.
Council, did you have any questions?
I do not.
I have a question that might be a little tangential, but are there design standards on the Danco project?
So they did go through DRC when they were originally approved, and I think that was in 2023. Yep. So.
I had a couple questions that you already answered. I wanted to know if the working group was still meeting and you guys are working on the implementation of this stuff, yes. Right? Also, program 3, I didn't mark the page, the inventory of adequate sites, it inventories infill sites, which is great. That comes up a lot when we're considering things around here. I wonder, and I don't know if it would be relevant to this document, but do we have, or would it be thoughtful and helpful for the city to maintain an inventory of just vacant homes? That comes up sometimes, especially we've had the short-term rental conversation. I know every once in a while it's brought up that there's a lot of empty homes around here and I don't know where they are. They're not in my neighborhood. So, maybe that would be,
Yeah, I think there could be somewhat of a safety concern with that. People might not want their
oh,
vacant
right,
home,
good point. Okay.
but yeah.
Anything else from the council? Did the public have any comments on the annual progress report for the housing element? Pretty stale stuff. Okay. Back to us, council.
I move that we accept the report for this, the housing element annual progress for submission to HCD.
Second.
Pam?
Vice Mayor Cirque,
Aye.
Councilmember Swift,
Aye.
Councilmember Reardon,
Aye.
Councilmember Feist,
Aye.
Mayor Gunselman.
Aye. Okay, before we get to item D, because it could be a long one, I think we need a 10-minute recess.
Okay. Oh my God.
Thank you.
You. Do what? When I started, 5 more minutes. Can't remember. So does Lottie come just the fun?
Yeah, I guess.
Had some shit with building, house that burned, it's not Sure, it's not high on his property. So that's what is there any way the city can?
I spoke with him because he's at AdArt, and he said he definitely is in the works of trying to find out what to put in there, but it's not going to be, he said,
Not gonna be what?
another restaurant.
Yeah, yeah.
He said it will be retail. of some kind. That's all.
But I'm with you, priority.
Yeah. The scuttlebutt is that, you know, he has other priorities and there's family money and it's really to.
Well, Ellen's
Yeah.
there's.
You know, if we could work with, you guys can work to that.
Oh, so that's.
It's light.
Right. She had to have fun on her birthday. She got you another good friend.
Oh, wow.
How old are your twins? And on Wednesday. Are we all set, guys? That might not have been 10 minutes, but I was. We got what we needed to done. Okay, I'm going to call us back into order. Pam, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, for 9D, we're going to pick up the discussion about short-term rental ordinance.
Yeah.
Tom left us something at places. Do you want to start us off with that?
Yeah, so actually, this will be our third discussion on this. And again, you guys have a great attendance record, but the two times we had a couple of council members missing. So we have all five of you tonight. I thought I'd put together a little bit of a discussion guide, and this is really just meant to help facilitate a discussion. I have no dog in this fight. I'm just trying to like outline some things that I thought might help us kind of get to a good place. So I put together just a short summary presentation. And so again, one thing as Aaron and I have looked at this was to really think about, what are we trying to do with this ordinance? What problem are we trying to solve? And we're suggesting using this framework. It's called the EASE framework. So equity, so fairness and kind of balancing individual property rights with neighborhood rights, and also fairness in the process of getting and keeping a permit. That's the E for equity. A for administratability is really, we can come up with a very complex ordinance, but it'd be very difficult and expensive to administer, collect, and enforce. So there's some things where we may want to do something, but maybe we trade off to make it a little bit easier to administer. Stability, this kind of reliability and consistency. So from year to year, we're not changing things around. People kind of know what to expect. And then lastly, the E for economic benefits. Part of that is tax revenue to the city, but it's not just that. It's things we've talked about, preservation of historic preservation, which creates value for Sutter Creek, supporting our local businesses. So tourism is important to us. So kind of thinking about those things. And then I just wanted to note, it's kind of an example. Creating a new ordinance costs us money. We have our city attorney, our city planner. Our total annual revenue for TOT from short-term rentals is about $10,000 a year. And so, we're probably spending about half of that to create this ordinance. So just an example of something to keep in mind.
Get on with it, you mean?
And so in the staff reports, we had a kind of these categories to think about for an ordinance. And again, you may disagree with my table. I was just trying to think of how to frame things. But we've talked about location, density, whether it's owner occupied or not, how long somebody should have a permit. Is it forever? Does it have a time limit? Activity requirements. So if you get a short-term rental permit, do you have to rent it out? Do you have to report? The approval process, are there cases where the rules are clear and staff would approve it? Or should it, everything go to the planning commission? Operating rules, this went out, it did.
No, it's gone.
It's on.
Operating rules,
Okay.
we have a pretty long list of conditions of approval. Hasn't really been any discussion. Seems like you guys are pretty happy with that. And then accounting and auditing. How do we know people are reporting correctly? If we're going to have an ordinance, why don't we think about adding some ability to make sure that reporting is happening? So again, this idea of what problem we're trying to solve. I tried to say, are we seeing demonstrations of a current issue on these things, which is the first column. And then is there a future concern? And so again, as an example, we really haven't had any issues with parties. There've been 0 calls to the police department related to short-term rentals. So the operating rules don't seem to be an issue now. I don't anticipate there'll be an issue in the future. So,
Also, we did when we decided a year and a half ago, maybe, that this is something that we wanted to do in the future, this process. We did look at all the operating rules then pretty extensively. And that's when we added some stipulations about insurance and a fire plan and
Right.
information about trash take. So we did that.
Sure.
There were concerns, but they were resolved. So I agree that what
fair
we
point.
have now, we're satisfied with.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So what I put at places, excuse me, there were some handouts. Let's see, they're all gone. Was to really take everything I've heard you guys say and try to put an outline of an ordinance. And so what you have in places is really these next 3 slides. And again, you can change this, you can move it around, but I was just trying to give a kind of a framework for discussion. So basically what you have in front of you is split up into 3 slides. I can stop talking and we could go through this in order, or you guys can ask questions, or we can do it however you'd like.
Think I have anything to add to what Tom said? I mean, I will probably throughout your discussion, but.
So yeah, if we start there with, the permit requirements and that kind of thing and just hang there for a minute. I remember a couple of months ago, we talked about, and I was a proponent of trying to get this so prescriptive that it was just administrative. It became clear that's not going to happen. And so I, for one, am giving up that notion and believe that they should go in front of the planning commission each and every time. Hopefully we get a little stricter guidelines to help them and enable them to do their job. But I think that the things that we won't be able to clearly define, like how many on a block or all that kind of business, leave it to common sense in the planning commission folks where they can react to what's specifically going on. So that would be on the permit requirements. I wanted to go on the record to say I've changed my mind about, pressing for an administrative solution to that. I just don't think it makes sense.
And just to be clear, this thing is proposing no change. Short-term rentals are allowed in the commercial zones. Those are handled administratively.
Fair enough.
That would continue. Residential zone, it would go to the planning commission.
And I'm in total agreement with that.
And I think we did that to kind of cut some of the red tape, to put it at the administrative level, to not have it to make so many, too many sit down.
Well,
What I think
It-
trying to go.
What Tom's saying, though, is that what he's recommending and what I'm okay with is it pretty much stays the way it is now in terms of if it's commercial, it's done administratively. There's no reason to go to the planning commission. If it's not, it goes to the planning commission, along with this newly revised rules and regs about how all this works, which hopefully will be helpful for them. So I'm cool with that. I think that, for me.
So I think two things that are new on this slide that's up is term limits and activity. So proposing that you would get a 3-year short-term rental license. It would renew annually. So there'd be requirements to potentially have activity and report each year, monthly. And then on the 3rd-year anniversary, there might be a more in-depth look. Again, they could renew potentially, but it would be a point where the city kind of looks at it and says, do we want to renew this location?
I would think that that would really be reapplying on the third year. You're renewing your 3-year license annually, and then, you know, the third year you're under review again. Which-
Yeah, I think there'd be, again, there's this idea, well, if somebody invests in a short-term rental, you know, are they in danger of just losing it? I think again, if we were, we'd have to use our judgment, right? And say, but I think the 3 years is a good point to say, potentially we want to do an audit or something, have a little bit better check. But if everything checked out, they would most likely get the renewal, would be the idea. Not that they would just be totally starting fresh.
Well, but then if you use the language most likely and you are investing, that seems kind of like I wouldn't want to buy a house if I most likely could keep renting it. So that we
There's no
might-
guarantee. Yeah. So again, this is my, you guys can say no. If they get it, it's permanent. It's theirs forever.
Right,
I was just trying to
right.
throw some ideas.
Maybe the-
I would
the-
absolutely not propose that it be permanent, and I don't think we have to craft the ordinance so that these investments are made with the assumption of having them be in perpetuity. You know, 3 years is a fine time to look at it again, and then as we're now considering density and neighborhoods and everything else, you know, maybe things have changed from when it was originally applied for. And you know, cycling through these and not having one property be a short-term rental for the next 20 years eases the burden on the effect it has on neighborhoods. So I don't think that it's the, you know, if people buy a home and they set it up as a short-term rental for 3 years, you know, they may invest in the service that maintains that and sheets and dishes and whatever you have in a short-term rental. But that's not the kind of investment that, you know, I think we're obligated to continue for forever. That house could then go on the market or go up for rent or
Right.
any number of other things.
So then what criteria, and I don't really have a duck in this race, but what criteria would it meet? Like, so, because from the other point of view, if it's adding to the tourism and it is, I mean, clearly it's not someone that's going to live in the house because they're, I mean, it could be converting to a short-term rental. But I worry about the vagueness of that. Like, well, if we feel like it, you can have it.
It would
Well-
be the same criteria. It would just go up again.
But I think there's a couple of missing pieces here. One of them was a ceiling on the number of these things, right? So the idea, at least in my head, is that we would do that. We would have it, and I would say the 2.5% at 35 units. You know, if I were king of the world, I would say that's the answer. And I would also say that today in the historic district, there are, what, about 15 or something like that, all in the historic district. I would say no more in the historic district until there's that many in the non-historic district. I would say a 3-year deal, and you got to do annual reporting. And if you don't do the annual reporting, you get a letter from the city saying, where are you? If you don't respond within 30 days, you lose your license. So I know that's a lot, but it supports this notion of, if after 3 years, everything is cool and we haven't hit our limit and everybody's playing ball and everybody's happy, then it's easier to just say yes to it. But if any of those other conditions have not been met, if, for instance, we've hit a ceiling and they're not playing ball and they're not reporting and they're never renting the place out and it's sitting there empty, and we've got 3 people lined up wanting to get into the business, then we could support that. Jim, have you been trying to get in? I keep seeing you pull the microphone down there, but I don't hear your voice.
Well, I actually wanted to talk about definitions, and we kind of went real fast and got into the no change in the approval process, and then all of a sudden we're down in Roman numeral 2. Is there anybody, I'm thinking that we've got owner occupied, and then we got non-owner occupied STR. Now, and the non-owner occupied, I see those as someone who's really in the business of the hotel business or the short-term rental business. They buy a piece of property specifically for that purpose. What about considering a definition of owner part-time occupied? which would include someone who owns a piece of, owns a second home in town. They use it quite often, but they'd also like to use it on occasion as a short-term rental.
I think these definitions meant simultaneously, meaning the owner is there when the renter is there versus not.
Right. So I'm proposing a definition of where the owner, it's.
I mean,
think
you could
it's-
take a short-term rental on and off the market, so you could live in it, and then when you rent it, if you're not there, it's not owner occupied, right?
So I don't think you have to create a third category, Jim, to accomplish what I think you're trying to accomplish.
Well, what I'm trying to say is, I think that situation is different than the situation where it's someone has purchased the home specifically to make
Yeah.
it into a short-term rental rather than someone that's.
I have
owns it
seen
as a-
cities say, maybe under a certain number of nights a year that it's rented or something. More about the
Yeah.
volume, right? You're saying if it's rented all year round.
The guy that bought the house, bought a property to make it a short-term rental is out to rent it every weekend or 365 days a year if possible. Whereas a home that someone owns as a vacation home would only want to use it occasionally. And I'm wondering if that should be a different category and be treated differently. I think they fit into the neighborhood differently.
Well, like I said, I think it gets down to how many nights a year are you renting. So
Mhm.
maybe, if it's, I don't know, whatever, less than 90 or something,
I
some
believe,
number.
yeah. To jump in and kind of merge in with what Jim was talking about, I believe it was either the Contra Costa. I looked up their short-term rental policy, Calaveras County, because they only have one incorporated city, so they have a county ordinance. It is not uncommon in looking at different policies to put a maximum number of days, like 90. Like you can rent your house out as a short-term rental up to 90 days per year, per 365-day calendar.
Okay, sounds like you're giving me a solution to my problem.
And then it could,
Well, it's more about how do you enforce it or how do you
I get
monitor
They,
that?
they're required to turn in an attendance on a bi-monthly, like every other month basis into the city. They're to report their occupancy.
well, I think we're on two things though, because if I understand correctly, Jim, you're saying which category they fall under in the purposes and definitions, and perhaps we could
It would be
include that in owner occupied and then set an amount of days you have to actually use the property.
I don't,
Well, the owner,
if the owner's not there when the people are there, then it's not owner occupied.
Okay, well then maybe we do need a different category.
Like a
Right.
part-time, short-term rental?
Yes.
right, because it says a property where the owner resides on site in the primary dwelling or rents out individual room. That's a situation where the person lives there all the time.
Well, what I was
I
suggesting
think there
that,
should be a category for a home where the person doesn't live there all the time, but could still rent it out to say 90 days out of the
So
year.
why don't we have this third category and then see how it interacts with some of these other rules?
Okay,
Let's
just
go
throw
through.
Oh, that's
that
a
out
good
there.
idea.
And
Yeah.
and while I'm thinking about it, I want to address the cap idea. And if we're going to use a percentage, we should not be counting apartments in our inventory of residences because they cannot possibly be a short-term rental. We should only be considering properties that are fit into the category that could be used as a short-term rental.
It's hard. I mean, I've seen apartments rented as short-term rentals. I think if the property owner wanted to offer them, they could.
How could they meet our parking requirements with an apartment?
well, they might have
One-
a parking space.
So correct me if I'm wrong. So you're saying you could rent out an apartment as a
I mean, I've
short-term
seen them in
rental?
other cities where the owner of an apartment building may have a couple of units that are short-term rentals. It's just
Mhm.
hard to know, duplexes, all different kinds.
I don't have a problem with the duplex if they have the parking.
right?
That's a detached
Mhm.
dwelling.
If you take out apartments, is the number, what is the number? How much does it decrease? The total number?
Wasn't it nine?
Brian had that for
You
us last.
brought
meeting.
that up last
Yeah.
time, Iron. It was like 950 was the detached, single-family homes.
Because Jim,
804, okay.
so for me, Jim, it's not the 2.5% that I think is such a great idea. It's the number that it netted us, 35 STRs. I could live with that. And the math just happened to work at 2.5%. So I
if we're
didn't
gonna-
question it too
you,
much.
You would, if we're gonna use 800 as the base, then you would want a higher percentage.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what
Right.
I'm saying. Yeah.
Once again, 800 was single family homes, but then you
Yeah.
have duplexes and you have
Yeah.
other types.
But I do think if you might want to consider though, if you're going to have 35, don't compare it to the total of residences without considering that
That's
that-
35 out of 800 and something
it's
houses.
35 out of 800, not 35 out of
Yeah.
1,200 or
Yeah.
whatever.
Fair enough.
Well, except that
Yeah.
the reason the biggest reason I want to have a cap is to make sure that we're not eliminating our housing inventory.
Thank you.
So there are all of those residences, those are all places you can live that should be considered in the percentage. They're addresses, they're somewhere that could be someone's
long as-
home.
And
we adjust the percentage accordingly.
there are a ton of apartments on, I mean, probably like in LA, I'm thinking there are a lot of apartments on Airbnb.
Well, we're not in LA, but
Well, I know, but I'm just saying the product is available on short-term rentals.
I think for myself, I'm more comfortable with having a number cap, not a percentage, because we're going to be talking here
the,
about the
yeah, the,
different districts
Mhm.
and whether we're going to have limits in certain districts like the historical district versus. So if you start talking percentage, that could increase the percentage within the historical district. So I think it's best to stay with the same number, either a percentage or a cap number. The cap number can always be increased if growth takes a big jump, if the developments take off, that number can potentially go up. But if you have a percentage, you're stuck. You have to.
Hmm.
If you have a percentage of 2.5 or 5% of your number of residences, then the number of short-term rentals then would go up.
I think the theory is that the percentage adjusts automatically rather than,
Right, rather than bringing it back to change the cap, it seems
Right. I think
that-
Councilmember Cirque saying she'd rather have a fixed number so it doesn't
I would rather have a
automatically
fixed
change.
number not to have.
Should-
Yeah, I think
yeah.
that might be wise, especially when we're looking at a development that you could have all the extra homes quickly.
Because now you're going back and you have to reconsider your historical versus non-historical district if we. go
you're saying like if a large subdivision was approved, then
Yeah.
suddenly you would see the growth in STRs in the
Could potentially,
downtown
yeah.
rather than, okay, I could see that point.
It's interesting. Yeah. Just one other thing on this page. I actually was proposing use it or lose it, that you would have to actually rent within a year or you would lose it. Not just right now, if you report zeros, then we consider that compliant.
And
So-
then do you think there would need to be a measure for the occupancy so it's not kind of random or?
I was thinking about that, Susan. I think when it's used for the purpose of renewals, to evaluate renewals, I think it should be fairly simple if they're reporting monthly or annually to just look at the mean, the median for that period and see if they're renting above or below it. And if we're talking about caps, I think it's reasonable to expect people to actually use their license for the purpose that we gave it to them. But it shouldn't be too incredibly difficult to see if it falls far under or far above. And then when it goes back, it is a process. It's a renewal process. So that can be one of the items that's considered.
So do you think that it needs to be specific with regard to that measure, I guess is my question.
No, I think you'd look at the median of that
But yeah,
period.
do
with,
you
like,
want it, yeah, I get that, but do you want it in writing in this?
we haven't gotten that far yet, but I would think that in my mind, the activity and density, because we can't be prescriptive about it. And I'm glad Dan made the statement. He said, that's why I don't want this to be an administrative process. Because we just can't map it out line by line with the radiuses, that I had talked about months and months ago. So if we empower the planning commission and then us on appeal to consider density in a neighborhood, to consider the activity of these licenses, to consider, we haven't had any, but you would certainly consider any violations or complaints. You could consider their reporting and payments if that's been done, on time and prescriptively as you go through these. So I don't think that there's a,
Instead of setting a,
yeah,
gotta be
it's
this.
kind of a report card that you can look at all of these items and consider it next to either an alternative if somebody else has applied in the meantime.
Well, I just wonder if, and I don't know, I don't want to get too far ahead, but if there should be guidance so the property owner kind of know. But, and then also, are you going to penalize someone because they're bad at marketing or they don't like nice sheets or whatever?
Well, if we're talking about only having a certain amount of these, if we're capping it, then I think it's perfectly reasonable to expect for people to use this limited license for the purpose that they got it, because they are disallowing someone else from using it if we reach our cap, whatever our cap is going to be. So if somebody has their vacation home, and couple 5, 6, 7, 8 weekends a year, they rent it out to somebody to help with their mortgage a little bit. Should they take up a whole one of these licenses?
Okay, so that's a good point, because then Jim's new category could possibly fall differently and be considered differently.
In the review of the policies that I looked at, it was very common for a city agency to require a packet of records that the minute you apply, you either get, or there's a packet that you have to, as the owner, the property owner, you keep record of your attendance, the first day, the number of days, the amount of money per night that you make. And I believe that if we're considering moving back from administrative, back to a planning commission step for consideration, that those kind of things need to be put in writing and very explicit. And the reason I think having the packet of those records, planning commissioners are going to come and go. Council members are going to come and go. If short-term rentals are here to stay, having something permanent and not getting really deep into the weeds, but I think having some detail that I know you get into, but
required reporting.
yeah.
is-
So the dates that
We're in agreement on that.
overnight occupancy,
Yep.
on a monthly basis.
Yep.
So at any given moment in audit, let's say there's a STR in my neighborhood and nobody's been in there for months, to ask, can someone go in or contact the owner and see what's going on?
Yeah.
I think
And for
that's
the
all.
purpose of not locking up homes that could be available for long-term rental.
And I think that would all fall under the TOT filing too.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff in here about
Exactly.
reporting. I think we're all agreed.
Reporting is
That's
mandatory in all
I'm so
of it.
like adamant about
Yeah,
if we,
But
if
I
we go
think,
back to the planning commission to
wanna-
do that.
Jump over what Councilmember Feist said. So if we had this third category of partial STR
Mhm.
in like overall activity was a factor, then those would necessarily score lower because they're available less nights. So
I think they'd have to be considered differently, and then we could go back to what Julie was saying. If you're in your house X amount of days or whatever percentage of the year and you rent it, like you're saying, those 6 weekends, I think that we could give people that.
That permission.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of felt like it could have been an expanded part of that owner occupied, because it's like, oh, I'm just trying to offset my mortgage instead of this house is going to be empty except for rentals.
But if we say, let's just say 35, we haven't figured that out yet. Is that one of the 35?
I
Are there
would
then 34?
I wouldn't think so, because you have this person, they live in the house, they're part of the community, and then it's just occasionally rented. So I mean, it
But-
kind of is like,
So it's-
to me, the person that's owner occupied versus that it's constantly just a rental.
So it sounds good. Everybody's following the rules. How do we tell? So we had a 35 cap for mostly short-term rentals, and then we had these partial category. What stops people from saying, oh, I'm a partial, just so they kind of get around the cap? Like, how do we know that they actually live there some number of days and rent some number of days?
So
Yeah.
for example, right now, we have 2 short-term rentals owned by the same person. And they say that they move back and forth between the two and rent them out. And I do think it would be easy for someone to say, I'm a part-time short-term rental owner. If they, maybe if they just rent it out a few times a month versus that short-term rental business owner who bought it, wants it rented out every single day. I do think people would be able to kind of weasel between saying they're part-time, and maybe that's how they get their permit in the historic zone, when really.
Well, but then if you take it the next step, and I'm fine with either way. I'm just was suggesting it might be a possibility, is how do you know that someone's reporting their TOT numbers correctly? You know?
Right. Again, that's what we're trying to figure out in this ordinance. I'm just,
Well, and there's also, remember the woman that was one of the homes that came to us on appeal? And I'm kind of talking to you, Jim.
Yeah.
She didn't buy her house to be in the short-term rental business,
Well, she built the house and then her husband got ill.
Well, there are certainly cases where either the market sucks to sell a house, or you're going to move back after you retire, or, there are a number of reasons that you might want to do this temporarily, full time. And, I still believe that it benefits the city to have some of these available, because it is a different, it's an alternative way of traveling for people. And, I brought up my family last time. I don't want to get 2 hotel rooms and eat out 3 meals a week. It's a nice way for a family to be able to travel. So if we're only allowing 35 or whatever it is, which I believe in, or whatever our number is, I'm just saying 35. I think we should be able to assume that those will actually be available for tourists, for visitors to rent.
and there are traveling nurse kind of rentals, which are 30 days, but not a full year lease. So there's month to month. So let's not forget, like, again, that one example, somebody needs to move away or whatever, there is a choice whether you're going to rent it nightly or monthly.
It's a 30-day, it's defined by 30 days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we do have people, we have construction workers and stuff that'll come in and get a place for a couple of months. And
So
I'm
if
just saying
someone-
there are options.
If
Even
someone has a short-term rental, can they rent it out to someone for 60 days?
yeah, and then
90
it's not a short-term rental. So
They would not report TOT, they wouldn't
Then they-
collect
okay.
or report TOT.
They'd have to report TOT the first 30 days.
I think if they go over 30 days, there's no TOT on any of those days.
But if you have a short-term rental contract, you can't go over those 30 days for an occupant, right?
You can. I mean, you could rent it. You just want
So then why wouldn't the city get the first 30 days of TOT if they filed for a short-term rental?
to, if they rented it, I mean, we're getting very complicated here. If they rented
Well,
it
these
for
are
a
questions.
month,
I'm trying to
I
understand.
mean, if they rented it for 5 days and then they said, I'm going to stay more, another 5 and another 5, I suppose then we could say we should get TOT. But if you sign a 30-day, month-to-month, there's no TOT.
But that's another reason we should be able to consider their activity and occupancy. So if there is one of these license holders that, you know, does the short-term rental gig in the, what's our busiest season, Susan, the summer? And or December or whatever, and then does
Fall and
long-term rentals the rest of the time. And the city does not get the TOT tax from that, and visitors are not able to, tourist type visitors are not able to use it, then it shouldn't gum up one of the specific number of available licenses. So
But
again,
then I
that goes back to demanding some kind of activity.
But
Or-
then I have another scenario. So if your parent, no, I'm just kidding.
If your parent
If your parent wants to see it, because it's getting that inane. But okay, say then a travel nurse books an Airbnb, which they do, and they block it out for 2 months. I don't think we should penalize people for that, because you're like, oh, I could make $200 this month, or I could make 2,000 for this person. So there's that.
Wait a minute. Are you saying if they go on Airbnb and book it for 2 months,
I had that happen.
then what should happen? What are you saying should happen? Isn't that an STR at that point?
It's not. I don't know how often it happens on the Airbnb platform. I mean, there are other platforms for traveling nurses, I think, out there, but
So that entire stay becomes not TOT? I think that's a problem with that licensing then. They shouldn't be owning one of those licenses.
so I know we're gonna go late, and probably get tired. Maybe we should just talk through a couple more of these slides. So
Yeah.
we also need to give the public a chance. So we're not deliberating, we're just hashing things out, but we will absolutely open it up to the public before we do any deliberating, and not likely to make a decision tonight, but that's just my guess.
yeah, I'll take the over on that. So density caps locations, that seemed to be the hardest one. In my outline, I was basically proposing we punt on that. So we have no short-term rental ordinance right now. I've been thinking in terms of like short-term rental ordinance version 1.0. Once you have that kind of framework in place, you could do a 2.0 and maybe zero in on density if it becomes a problem. But I think everybody agreed that owner occupied, we don't have two, maybe we have one of those, but didn't seem to be a problem. Would it be part of the cap?
Right.
So a cap sounds like either a number or a percentage. And then again, I am basically, my proposal was no districts, no density in the initial ordinance. Sounds like you guys may want to reconsider that part of it. Aaron,
No, we have 3 owner occupied currently. One is a 1 room, and then the other 2 are, one's like a detached garage that has a bonus room off of it, and then a house that's kind of like that too, with like a bonus above the garage.
Are those used on short terms, or are those sometimes, that might actually kind of answer our question. I would think that maybe somebody moves into those for a few months while they're doing a job.
So
How does
the
that work
single
now?
room one has not been used yet, or has not, from what the city knows. And one of them I know has. I've seen it on the list I've gotten from Mason about who they've collected TOT from.
It has been used as a short term.
Yes.
Would we necessarily know if they had rented it out for a couple of
Long-term?
months?
No, what we would, in a perfect world, we would want these owners to let us know we are renting it out. So for example, last week at Planning Commission, we reviewed 2 short-term rental permits that we had no contact with them for a year and a half. And in their response, they said, we had a 4-month tenant in there. And so we, in discussing that at Planning Commission, we want people to still tell us, even if they have those situations, because we're just thinking they're ignoring us, but really they had no TOT to report. So we could add that as a requirement if, whether you just let us know, keep us informed.
I think that's what I was referring back to on like occupancy records and rental records, that they have to be either submitted on a monthly basis to the planning commission, and it's to give them that would give the planning commission
To
then
the
an
planning
update.
commission?
Yeah, so
The-
the finance department
It's
gets,
the finance.
the finance department receives their TOT forms they're supposed to submit them every month. I'm not sure if it is the number of days, Mason, do they submit the number of days they've rented or just the amount of TOT they've collected?
I'm
Sorry.
pretty sure you put days, yeah.
Thing on.
And again, it's on the honor system. So Airbnb collects this, or the websites collect it, and then they give it back to us. So when I was with the city of Plymouth, I spent a lot of time trying to get in touch with Airbnb to say, is there any way you can just send it directly to the city so we aren't worried about this? And they won't do it. And I believe there's currently some litigation going on about it. Like Airbnb was gonna give it directly to the cities, and then now it's not gonna happen that way.
I think we require them to disclose how many days the rental was available for the month. But I think part of that calculation is also how many days it was rented. It's also how many rooms are available in the rental. There's a few items on the form that we require them to fill out that helps us calculate like the per room cost and this, that, and the other.
So when my kid goes to college, I decide to rent out his room instead of give it to one of his sisters on a couple month at a time basis or seasonally, do I need a permit from the city? So, I'm not sure that we need to consider that type of arrangement in these. They're not short-term rentals. And nor should they use up a short-term rental permit if they're not being used that way. So if we renew these annually, say it's a 3-year period, and after 3 years, they kind of reapply. It's like a big renewal or a review again. But if we're renewing them annually and we see these folks that actually had a 4-month tenant, or, Mason's reports show us that it was only available 12 days of the year, then we could not renew that one, particularly if there's somebody else that wants to do one of these things.
And I'll take that as far as that they're required to keep monthly reports of that data to be audited at any time.
There are monthly reports. All right.
It's a monthly
There are monthly reports. They don't go to the planning commission.
No.
But when the planning commission does an annual review to renew this license, then Mason can send them, as part of that review, these guys did this in this period or didn't do this in this period, and that can be looked at. And we're already doing the reporting part. I mean, if people are reporting or not is another thing.
Well,
but-
you added a new detail, which I was assuming the annual review would be administrative. Want to go back to planning commission every year. That would be a lot.
That's a good point. I was just, Julia had me thinking about planning commission, but my point is activity is considered. So that if people are not actually using their license for the purpose that we gave it to them, they should not be keeping someone else from.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we could go as far as to say, I mean, it's not uncommon for us to have a property that sends us $0 forms for the full year. I mean, they claim they didn't rent it at all. And so I sit there and ask myself, well, why should they even have this
Exactly.
license if
So
they're
that
not leveraging
could be
the
revoked.
opportunity that they have, and maybe someone else wants that opportunity and they're holding it hostage for them. It's just something to think about. That is something that we do see.
So I think that should be reinforced then, either the 90 days, within the year, whether we want to use that or whatever. But I'm also in favor of that, if we get to 34, 35 homes, we have 34 and we're at the cap, then we should be able to also do our own. We shouldn't have to wait for the end of a year period. We should be able to review at any given time, and those records need to be made available by the owner.
So why don't we get to the last slide? Because members of the public have been patient. And
Thank you.
so this last one really is the reporting one, Julia. It's all the
Yeah, I looked.
requirements. So one thing most cities do is they have to publish their license number in their ads. So makes it easier for city staff. We can look at an ad and say, oh yeah, they have a license. And if there's no number, it could be, you know, a non-approved short-term rental somebody just put up. Also, we have this form, it asks a lot of questions right now on paper. So, you know, again, TOT is on gross revenue. That includes cleaning fees and other things. So, and right now it's all on the honor system and depends what people put in there, and that's what they pay. So this was basically saying we want to strengthen the reporting. We want to, when they get a short-term rental license, they would agree to provide certain documents, you know, if audited, you know, the proof remain is on them, not on the city to demonstrate if they're not renting, basically.
I think that's great. I think that the activity, you know, again, we're talking about the activity, we need to look at the dollars and not just the days, because if folks are using this often or mostly for friends or pals or whatever, and they're calling it a short-term rental and they charge them $20 a week or something, you know, again, we get back to people gumming up a license that aren't using it for that purpose. So I would just, they should, you know, when we look at their activity, instead of just looking at days, we need to also look at sales or revenue.
That's also on the form. I mean, obviously.
It's on the report, but when we review it and we consider it, instead of just how many nights a year is there a body in it, we need to see how many nights a year is there a body paying TOT tax in it.
Yeah.
Well, the TOT would, I think it's just a percent of whatever the rate is. And then, sorry to be getting into all these. Yeah, so it's percent of the rate per night, right? But what's our goal? Like, are we trying to limit the STRs? Are we trying to make the most TOT? Or because, and again, I don't really care how this all goes down. I just think it's good we're addressing it and I want to all be on the same page. But is our goal to make TOT or is our goal to have tourists in town? Because if the rate, you know, and you can set Airbnb that it slides, like, okay, well, there's not a lot of demand, so I'll let my rate go down here. So
I can, maybe that's a good point, Susan, to start at the very beginning. My goal is to have this be an available option for people visiting Sutter Creek at on a limited basis, so it doesn't affect too much our housing inventory, neighborhoods, and everything else. And in order to do that, I think that we have to have some sort of cap. And if we're going to have a cap, going back to the other goal, we have to make sure that those licensed premises are being used for that purpose. So to have it available on a limited basis, and even, you know, Dan talked about our initial aspirations to have this so prescriptive, it could just go to the office for a rubber stamp, and we can't do that. But we are still accomplishing something, because now, or before now we have nothing. We have a moratorium. But before that, we had no cap. We had this little like 15 number we threw around, and then we had a 20 number, and the licenses just went till forever, or, you know, until we couldn't find the people anymore. So we're getting something done here. But yeah, I guess so. Maybe we all just need to say that. My ambition is to have them available on a limited basis where we're protecting still our housing inventory, and you know, a neighborhood or the community isn't overrun by them. And in order to fulfill both of those purposes, then if we're granting licenses on a limited basis, we need to make sure they're used for that purpose.
That pretty much encapsulates how I feel. My number one priority is to be able to, while providing a positive lodging experience outside of a hotel, for our tourists, for our visitors, and make them feel welcome, is that we also protect our own housing resources and how to find that balance. Another priority for me is whatever we set as far as requirements for the owner, and hearing from Mason, sometimes they'll go months without, renting it out, is that we tighten up our report requirements and an audit process and do it maybe more than just annually. That it could be done at any time and that accurate records by the owners are made available. And the other is, I don't know, I'm not looking, to steal and rob for any dime, but if we have fees attached, to penalties, that whatever we're applying for those fees can pay for the time and the energy and the work, the paperwork that it takes to try to solve them. So that's the other thing I want to, when we get to that point, as far as if we're going to get in the weeds with penalties and fees, that we assign meaningful ones that actually take care of the expenses they force us to accrue.
Next.
Do you want to go to the public?
I do. Did you guys have anything to?
Just a question for you, Claire. So if someone owns a vacation home in town, would they be prohibited from using it as a short-term rental? If they only wanted to rent it out, say, a dozen weekends out of the year, they wanted to rent it, would there be an opportunity for that?
Would they apply for a short-term rental license?
Would they need to?
That's what he's
Yeah.
asking. Would they need to?
I believe so. If you're renting out
Yeah.
a property short-term, then you have to have a short-term rental license.
4 days a
and-
year. you'd
What if
be-
they only
Yeah.
want to do it for a dozen weekends out of the year?
Yeah, that's a
That's
lot of days.
short-term.
Okay.
I think you'd
Would that
rank-
be but it sounds like you're saying is that they're not renting it out enough, and so they're taking advantage of having that permit. So they're taking that permit away from someone that's going to rent it all the time.
Yeah, so we, again, and
If there's only a certain number of them, then
Okay, so
that is what I'm saying.
I
okay,
don't
so
think
you're
we
you're
see-
saying that category then wouldn't be allowed. That person.
Well, they could certainly apply for a short-term rental license, and when it's reviewed in a year, if, they basically have a vacation
So the
home with some
alternative-
perks.
The alternative would be then that vacation home just sits on those weekends where that person may have rented it out. It's going to sit empty.
Yeah.
Well, we're not at our cap yet. So if they apply for a short-term rental license and they do that, exactly what you're saying, and
After
next
1 year,
year,
they would-
we still have 14, then
Yeah.
they could probably do that another year.
I think,
And if next year we have 28, then, they might eventually lose that opportunity. And I think that's very reasonable.
but I think again, you guys are getting into extreme cases. Right now, if you rented 1 day a year, you would rank much higher than several other people, so you'd be fine.
Yeah.
So
Right? So-
that's where we are.
That's right. And that's, Jim, so to what Claire's saying, even if you did the review at a year and they rented 12 days a year, they'd be doing pretty
They'd
good.
be mid-tier, they'd be in the middle. So
Right. So if we do the median
But
thing,
Then you're,
My point is that it should be able to be considered. So
Yes.
when we're looking at
exactly.
2 or 3
that's-
on
you clarified it for me.
Broad Street,
I'm good.
or especially if we put a cap on historical district as basically what's already here, and somebody else wants to do it and actually use it more than when you're up for review, then yeah, you might lose it.
I think
I wanted to get clarification on that.
I don't know, want to spend any more time on it right now, but for the longer term, I really think that's an interesting point philosophically, because say they do that and we don't let them do that because they don't have the permits and we're at the cap, and now we have someone in a vacation home. They're not going to use it those 24 days out of the year. And we just took away their ability to rent it to a tourist that probably would have spent those, X amount of people would have spent those 24 days spending money in this.
I hear you, but we're so far away from that. It's years. I mean, the median today as you're hearing, is
the-
way less than that. That wouldn't be an issue, I would argue, for years and years and years. So if we,
Years go fast.
well, I know, but I'm just saying that all of these issues, we're not going to be able to come up with prescriptive
See-
solutions. We need a general,
I'm okay with it now because I got clarification that
yeah.
as long as we're under the cap, you're gonna let that person continue to do what they're doing. And I'm okay with that.
Sure, but
But I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah.
And I get it.
Aaron brought up two properties that have short-term rental licenses that are not being used as short-term rentals right now, basically, and hadn't been, have they been rented as short-term rentals
Well, you
in the
said
last year?
You rented it for 4 months or something to someone.
That's not
Which is not a
short-term
short-term
rental, and
rental.
it doesn't pay TOT tax. So if we do put a cap, and if there's a cap, like Dan was saying, if
You're-
we call
you're
the
gonna weed-
historic district capped out, basically.
You're gonna
right?
weed out the non-performers.
Yeah,
That's,
I
the-
get
I mean,
that.
if
that would
somebody
be the
else-
hope.
Okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so but then I think that person that rented it for 4 months is actually a performer because they filled whatever 120 days of adding that person.
Not as a short-term rental.
And we're talking about short-term rentals.
This is a short-term rental ordinance with
I
short-term rental license.
It's
and
not
short-term
overall
rental
rent
cap.
and
No, I get that, but 4 day, it's not the year. I just know I did rent mine for 2 months and it was like a great income source. So I just want to put that out there that
Would-
that only happened to me one time. So if someone falls out of the TOT, that might I just want to put it in the.
but you could rent a room for 2 months and not have to even talk to the city about it.
Yeah.
Today.
You don't
Well, mine was under Airbnb and mine was zone commercial anyway, so it's
Okay. But you
specific.
don't-
But I just wanted to say that from that's your best case scenario to book that many days. So I just wanted to throw it out there.
Okay.
Can I open up to the public? Thank you guys for being so patient. I feel like we were making some progress. Thanks for bearing with us.
No, I just first want to start off by thanking the council, city for taking a serious, sober look at an ordinance that's fair, right? To the mayor's point, that I understand there's a balance between TOT and available housing. And you talk about people investing their investment in a short-term rental and they expect to, maybe make some profit on that. But also, please don't lose sight that we as homeowners made an investment in our property and we expect someday to maybe sell it and retire, right? If a homeowner lives next to a short-term rental, they have to disclose that on the sales application. And the reason for that is it's going to lower the value of that return on investment, right? So I appreciate the conversations you're having about density and areas because I really feel strongly that the future dynamics could change where people want to invest as families to buy homes may change if it's too saturated with short-term rentals. Nobody's going to want to live next to one of them because the return on investment is going to lower everybody's, right? So I just, appreciate the conversation and ask that you don't lose sight of our investments as well.
Thank you. It's a good point.
Thank you.
Sir, may we have your name for the record?
My name is Quentin Taylor. I live at 25 Main Street.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Laura Damiani, not Ha or Hardcastle. That's a correction to the record. So one of the things I wanted to bring up, I think some of the things are like process items, is and did bring it up too when I was a planning commissioner, is to have a better recording of hot issues that could serve as a checklist to say what the real issues are that the individuals come up and speak to, because we're like the stakeholders to a big company. We're the stakeholders to the city council. We're the community.
So I think one of the things is improving the minutes. And they could be very short, like noise ordinance. Right now, and that's one of my concerns, is like noise ordinance for businesses is 9 o'clock, and yet short-term rentals is 10 o'clock, 7 days a week. And there's no on-site supervision. If I'm staying at the Sutter Hotel and they got 20 people squeezed in a room and they're all drunk and having a good old merry time, somebody calls a manager and they handle the problem. So that's one of the issues, is trying to get some better minutes, maybe just a sheet and recording it that you distribute when we have these conversations. And if there is redundancy, you don't even, just check it off because 500 people said the same thing. Okay, that's one of the issues. Because several things that were not captured in that, which was, I brought up the noise ordinance, the methodology of data collection, that was very important. And that was not under a speaker that brought that up. And then some other things that were not brought up as well. I did say that the approval process shouldn't be administrative, but now that I've seen how you've broken it out, I think perhaps there could be more of a two-step process, because I always thought it was odd, again, as a former planning commissioner, that we were getting documents and looking at them, and most of these people, it just got me that they hardly even wrote their name in there and the papers aren't even completed. Well, I think some of these administrative things, such as, do they have the fire, suppression units and all these other types of things that are required, definitely that should be an administrative process. But I think before we invest more than $10,000 that we're collecting in TOT, is to let the planning commission determine whether it should be approved or not, approved for consideration, and then they go and then try to tease out the more administrative stuff, because there's that one page that it was the last point, the accounting and audit procedures. I mean, obviously that's not going to fall within the planning commission. The other thing, I like the 3-year, I didn't really like the 3 years, but when you said 3 years with the 1-year renewal, I do like that. And I think that that's good, because I think if we have a permit that when they sign it, that you can't talk, no noise after 9, and, deals with parking and all this other stuff. And if they have any of those violations, their license can be revoked, so you don't get in any type of a legal skerfuffle with these people. And also a big point to put on there that they agreed to, because I thought I had read that some people weren't reporting, is if you do not report if you are out of in violation 60 days, so that's 2 months, your license can be revoked. So you either get it in or not. So if you have a private process with finance, and it should be able to be easy to just have a flagging system that every 2 months, if you have it come out, okay, these people haven't reported in 2 months, pretty easy to go. And then, then you drop a letter in the mail. If we do not hear from you within the next 30 days with the reports to bring you up to date for the last 3 months, the current month you're going to know with the 2, then you're out of here. Something like that, administratively, and a way to get rid of them, or if they have noise problems or trash problems or anything that upsets the community. I think that that's something that we could look at and let these people know up front. If you're going to take this on, this is a business. The city takes it seriously as a tax revenue, especially if we're going to slim it down. And I know the city is interested in having some serious people that want to be short-term rentals, not people that are dabbling in it. The other thing is, I'm not opposed to like 4 weeks a year or something, but doing a day limit, like 90 days, my hair almost fell out because there's only 52 weeks in a year. And if somebody rented their house out as a part-time, like Councilman Swift was talking about, this is an abuse on the other end. That's only 156 days a year. So they could be renting out on that type of a permit
every weekend out of the year, which I would have a problem of it, with that as an issue. The ease concept, I didn't really like that format. I think that was a big issue. My neighbor here and myself and other people last time and at the planning commission brought up this, issue of historic nature because it falls in line with our general plan. So not just the historic building, but the community. I think there needs to be a community component because if you break it down, the historic district now has 71%, 71% at 15. Doesn't sound like a lot. Well, it's a lot for myself, my neighbor that lives in the historic district. So maybe we do have the zones or something that was proposed and everybody gets 20% or whatever, and then it gets capped that way. Because a disproportionate amount on the city, plus the city, most homes don't have driveways. So I kind of disagreed with the one point, and there was inconsistencies with that thought about parking, that it would relieve parking. No, it doesn't relieve parking if you have all your guests. These are great places for weddings, and my daughter rented one in Tahoe herself for a wedding. Well, they had like 20 people in there, and where are they parking the cars? Right now, I can't even get out of the driveway of guests visit across the street. Just people come to work on the house or whatever. What are we going to do if it's a guest rental and everybody that's a guest drives their own car? So that's not necessarily, when you look at it, you got to look at it the other side from a parking perspective. Let's see. So I think those are most of my issues. I heard that you're going to bring these up again, but really looking at the data in a fair way and the distribution, I think that would be, I think short-term rentals are good at some level. I don't want one by my house, what can I say? But if the city needs it, it could help.
30 seconds, Ms. Damiani.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Byron Damiani. Okay. I'll be brief because a lot of things have been covered already, but I think, I'm not sure it makes a big difference in your cap, whether you have it as a percentage or whether you have it as a hard number. It may be easier just to pick a number and say, this is what we're going to be at. Personally, I think we're already there, at least as far as where we are for the historic district. The chart I handed out last time, it was 804 residential homes in Sutter Creek. We're at 2.5% right now. If you look at how many we have for existing approved STRs, you'd have to build another 40 homes to get another one more available one under that 2.5%. I don't know how long it took us to build 40 homes in Sutter Creek last time, but I suspect it was a pretty long time. So it may be easier just to pick a number, and I think we're really already there as far as the historic district. The other thing I would point out is there was discussion back and forth about whether there would be caps on owner occupied versus non-owner occupied. And I think you still have to cap the owner occupied, especially if it's in a historic district. If that's not going to be the existing cap, you could have a whole series of larger lot homes where they can build an ADU, and now because they have an ADU, they get to have, a short-term rental in there. And that I don't think would necessarily be the policy that you want to follow, unless I've misunderstood.
I don't
Those
think
are,
ADUs
you
can be
can't
used.
use ADUs.
No, but you can live in the ADU.
Right.
No, I think he's right. Is that correct, Aaron? You could live in the
So you
ADU,
could
but
rent your ADU out for long-term rental. You could live in your ADU and rent out your main house.
That's right.
But not on a short term, which
not
is
the-
under.
not the main house on short term?
No, the main house would be short-term. If you lived in your ADU, you could rent your main house for short-term rental
If you got a permit.
if you had a permit.
Okay, so he is correct. You could do that,
Okay.
possibly.
Good point.
Well, backwards though, right?
Yeah.
You can't rent out your, if you're living in a larger lot home, you can't rent
He
out
wasn't
your
saying-
ADU as a short-term rental.
No.
And just to clarify for all of us, since our last meeting, I think we were at 14. And you're right, most of those are at the historical district. After the planning commission meeting, do we actually have less now?
No,
So we have
we were-
14, and how many of them are active?
that was it. The 14 that are active.
Okay.
Weren't there 17 and then 3 in there?
We are, the two that we discussed at planning commission are on 3-month probation, like probation. We need to see something. We want to see activity.
So we have 12 that.
Double secret probation.
Double secret.
Hmm.
We were feeling real nice at planning commission last week, so.
And I mean, I call the staff or public, I don't know, but I think if we're going to consider limiting these types of rentals in the historic district region, I don't know the last time you guys have looked at the map, what we consider the historic region, but it's a significant portion of the whole city. And I think it's going to restrict any new applications pretty severely. I
It's
mean,
page 147 in the packet.
yeah,
Yeah.
The purple, two-tone purple.
yeah. So it's just something to consider as well. You know, I know we've talked about it a couple of times tonight, and we don't want any more in that region. It's pretty much just going to leave kind of like our neighborhood up like Bryson area, Foothill Drive, Lorinda.
Well, I think though, Mason, to Dan's point, if we, and we're not there yet, but if we stopped it at historical around where we are, but then there was a 1-year review and we see that half of those don't do anything, then we're not, we may delay the opportunity for other people, but it won't really remove it. I think we're going to, as Jim said, weed out the non-performers a little bit. And to Quentin, right? To Quentin's point, I believe that the 3-year permit with annual renewals will help neighbors as well, because it's not necessarily a permanent thing. Right now, you have one until,
The 3 years.
You either
you
either sell the house.
until you sell the house.
Yeah,
So,
pretty much.
that'll help with that too.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
The size of the historic district is fairly large, and I
Yeah.
just wanted to mention it.
Absolutely.
And I do think that a lot of those houses in that region are the desirable ones that people are probably going to want to stay in because it has that. I mean, they abide by the DRC rules that it has that sort of charm and feel that those tourists are looking for, I think, when they're staying here versus like a house up off of, I don't know, up on Old Highway 49 almost to the corner there.
Mason, can you tell us ballpark of the 14 that we have? How many of them were rented more than
15
10
times.
weeks a year?
Of short-term rentals, not including the hotels.
Yeah. The 14 licenses that are out now.
10 weeks out of the year.
I'm
What's the number?
Yes.
14.
You're putting me on the spot. Give me a second.
Okay, or, pick a number, 10%, 20% of the time, being used.
I don't think there's a lot that are rented, during the middle of the week kind of thing.
No.
Weekends,
Yeah.
20 weekends a year.
I mean,
again,
I would say over half of them rent fairly consistently.
You know, what might be helpful is just as we continue this work is for staff to provide what is the medium? What's the, let's get our arms around exactly what's going on. So when we have these discussions, we can start filling in with more specificity.
That's fine.
That'd be really helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's data we can pull together.
That's
It might
cool. That's cool.
take us like a meeting or two.
Thank
We
you.
can
Yeah.
Probably,
pilot in a useful sort
Yeah.
of format. Yeah.
Yeah.
and maybe Amador Tourism Council too has
That's true.
occupancy.
So again, I think based on this discussion, the open issues I hear are, do we do anything about density now? Historic district, not historic? Anything else?
I
Is
don't know
there a
if, can
fixed
we,
cap and what is it?
can we
Yep.
ask
Yep.
the question? So let me ask the question, council folks. In the beginning, I said I made a recommendation about historic, non-historic. What do you guys think about that? Is that got legs? Is that idea got legs or not? Are we?
I would like to see different considerations for historic versus non-historic. Only because I think we're out also to protect our culture and
Mhm.
protect, we don't want, I at least,
Mhm.
I won't speak for the staff. I don't want to see our historical district turn into rental properties.
I mean, Tom, I'm just asking because if we can get one thing nailed down here tonight, that might be helpful.
We could separate those two.
Juliet, what do you mean by separate considerations? Different caps?
Yes.
Okay, there's not a
Yes.
different application process or requirements.
Just different caps for historical versus non-historical.
And
Oh, or split the cap between the two. Dan was kind of talking about, if we say 30 and they're 15 in historical, then there can be 15 in not historical.
Well,
But
also I think that historical should have a lower cap only because that's the most protected area. So I would like to see greater restriction on the number on the cap in our historical district.
Except it's 3 times the geography of everything else.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do we have a number of the actual houses that fall in?
Well, if
Are you guys talking,
keep it the same.
so first, are we talking the broad historical or the downtown historic district?
The
don't have
downtown
any
is
of
mostly, the downtown is commercially zoned, so it would be a lot
That
there.
would be.
Yeah, so the
So
dark
the,
purple.
the other thing to consider then is, if we're going to maintain, a cap of say 30 and 15 and 15, then I think then parking has definitely got to come eventually into this.
parking's already in the
Yeah,
requirements.
so there
There's
are,
spots
you know,
required.
The first houses here on Main Street already do not qualify because they can't provide the off-street
that.
parking needed.
So how many houses are in that historical district? Because I think we can't just arbitrarily assign numbers without having that number.
I don't think even Erin can't do that off the top of her head. But I think
That's
Dan's
fine.
question was, do you think it should be split? Right? Is that,
Fair.
yeah, we don't have to come up with a
You could
number.
answer that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, I do.
Yeah, and again, if you decreased it, all of your available permits would be non-historic. Right, so you can see visually, most of them are here and here today, right?
Right.
So you would be talking about any new permits would be up here in Golden Hills, it'd be over here in this neighborhood, in
Sutter Oaks,
Crestview.
Mount Pleasant.
Sutter Oaks, Mount Pleasant, all that
Yep.
stuff.
Until the next 1-year renewal.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you would basically have maybe 1 permit available in the historic district and you'd have 15 available in the neighborhoods which you wanted to protect. You'd be pushing them out there.
That's what I was wondering too.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's one neighborhood we wanted to protect more than the other at all. I think that, pushing them out there distributes it, and distributing affects density in the way that we want it to.
But for me, my primary concern on this is the number of houses that we're taking out of the rental market and for people to actually live in. So for me, without the number of how many houses fly in the historical district, I don't want to right now decide that, because I don't know what percent that those 14 dots are. And that, like, right now we need to lock in, because as a tourist, I wouldn't want to come stay in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And we do want sales tax revenue from tourism. And I think we forget that sometimes, but it funds a lot of the city. And I'm not saying like, oh, and maybe that would be a planning commission thing, like, let's not have every house on that street be that, but that could be
But we're not trying to come up with a number, Susan. The question Dan has is, do you think it should be considered separate?
just said, do we want to not have any more in the historical district? And for myself tonight, without the actual number of homes in the historic district, I don't want to make that
Okay.
decision.
So I think 2 definite homework assignments, we'll figure out kind of the most common groupings for rentals per year, how many nights places are rented. And then if we could try to figure out number of housing units in the historic district and the non-historic district. So rather than saying 50-50, maybe it's proportional.
Yeah.
Good. That sounds fair.
Is there anything else that,
What about the 3-year deal? Is council members, are you guys cool with that? It's a 3-year permit with a 1-year renewal?
Has anyone done research on other communities if that that's the tendency?
That's.
I think
in
we
the-
all have.
Yeah, in the,
And
the
staff.
policies that I went online,
Okay.
so that's very common.
I mean, mostly I found that they don't expire when I looked at other cities. This would be a little bit different, I think. And it's not in here, but I think with this idea of this 3-year term, we probably need to have a wait list
Yeah,
idea.
I don't, as a business person, I don't like the expiration. I think it's onerous. I think like 3 years is so fast, and I literally am gonna go out, I'm gonna get this permit, I'm gonna pay for the permit, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna fit my house out, I'm gonna spend like 15K on bedding, and then like by the time I do that, like 3 months have gone by, and now I'm renting it, and I only get another 2.5 years. I wouldn't do that. I don't know. It just
So maybe we give some more thought to what it means.
Yeah,
Like
to what it means
how much do you get to renew if you're
Exactly.
operating well?
versus, it's ending. Yeah.
and then I get one more year. Like, forget it.
Well, I think I'm hearing that part of the 3-year renewal review is we want to keep the high performers. We don't want the people
Correct.
holding permits.
Right.
And so I think maybe the council needs to come up with a threshold. And then it goes back to, do we have owner occupied business short-term rentals and then part-time short-term rentals? But the goals are maintain neighborhood character, bring TOT into the city. And so how do you balance that? If someone isn't performing and keeping a permit when short-term rental owner
Right.
Wilson's going to come in
Right.
and provide a lot more TOT,
Right.
then you would bump that person off the list.
And Susan, I think that works because the person who's going to invest, as you're describing, they're going to be vested in the notion of improving their TOT because they're going to be renting the place out. They're not going to invest all that and then just sit back and let's see what happens.
And I think it's going to be large differences. It's going to be if you are dramatically underperforming, you're at risk.
Yeah.
Right? It's not going to be like
No, it's
you
not going
missed
to
it
be
by
a
a day or two.
absolutely.
Right.
So say I'm like Mrs. Smith and I'm doing this project. I know at the end of 3 years, like if I did perform and I rented my property, I will keep the permit, or I think maybe hopefully I'll keep the permit.
I'd go back to what I said in the beginning. We are not obligated to guarantee to any homeowner that they can do this in perpetuity. But if you're operating your short-term rental business well and, doing your reporting and it's successful for you and successful for the city, then you're probably fine. We want to say yes.
Okay, so that would be your guidance.
You would get
to the
renewal-
applicant.
renewed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we-
That seems fair.
Yeah, we want to work with you. We want you there.
Can I say something? I was just thinking, as part of the application process that help with the decision, is perhaps the applicant needs to say how much they're gonna charge per night and what days of the week. Maybe they just like 7 days a week or just weekends. And also, how much they're gonna pay and then how often they're gonna rent it out. Because that might, if you get 2 application and one says, well, I just want to do it 4 weekends a year, and somebody says they want to do it every weekend, that is a decision. And it also is really great for desk audit, in auditing, because if it comes in and it says that these people, and it'll help with the, review process. Well, you were supposed to bring in, $50,000 last year and you only brought in 10. How many weeks are you renting? And then you could tell if they're kind of cheating because they says, well, I mean, it's just a thumbnail thing and that's what they,
Yeah, fair
to be able to do a quick and dirty audit
Right.
and make a better decision on how serious of a short-term rental and what kind of a short-term thing are in there. And they sign to it and they can every year update that or, put it on their audit form. Well, I just increased my rent, rate to 150 a night or whatever.
So
I forgot to say that.
And currently on our application, we do have do you plan to rent your short-term rental more than 15 days per month, full-time, or less than 15 days? And we ask them to check full-time, part-time, or undecided.
And there's a mandatory listing registration. So where it's on the Airbnb with their license number and everything, we have the rates and that's how we
Yeah,
see what.
so
yeah.
Yeah, we've got.
yeah, that's proposed is to make people put that on their ads.
Right.
And I think because we had been discussing this at Planning Commission, we were starting to categorize these as these full-time businesses versus a vacation home who's trying to cover their expenses.
Right.
And then obviously the,
Yeah.
the owner occupied ones.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Early on in this, there was consideration of forming an ad hoc committee with a couple of council people and a couple of planning commissioners. Do you remember that? Or is
It
that something that's still on
rings
the
a-
radar? No.
I think we kind of agreed to go that route.
But we
If I
haven't.
remember correctly,
At what,
to put a,
at what point in the process are we going to do that?
I think we were trying to get enough information that we could craft an actual draft ordinance and then
And
bring
and
that.
then it would go to that.
So I think we're
committee?
very close. If you guys are comfortable, can we take what we heard tonight and go to an ordinance? I don't want to waste time. And then this ordinance comes back and you're like, no, that's not what we wanted, but
Well, let me ask you this question. Based on what you heard, do you think you'll get 70%
yeah,
of it?
I think there was a lot of
It,
alignment.
it seems like there is, and maybe 70% is good enough to go to an ordinance and get the first rough draft. And then we can start, filling in with.
Well, I
better
guess,
info.
would you have to leave blanks though on, I mean, we haven't come to any
So,
consensus on
I-
if we're doing percentages or caps and
Based on what I heard, I would have a cap of 35 units. I would have it proportionally split between the historic district and the non-historic district. However, the number of
proportionally.
by
however, the
housing
number of
unit.
housing units.
That's going to put more in the non-historic district than in the historic district.
Yeah, and if we were
Is
already
that what you
over,
want to do?
Well, I think we just got to see it play out one way or the other and then react to it. We don't know exactly
well,
what
I
we
mean,
want.
if we're over in the historic district, that would be another issue.
Well,
Like,
exactly.
yeah,
And because I don't think we're looking to take licenses away unless they're non-performing.
right. And then
Which I think
we would
some of
define
them are.
better what this 3-year cycle means, what the
Right.
conditions are. And that was about it. I think the other stuff was roughly in agreement.
Yeah, all the rules and regs and all that stuff are working well. Like you said earlier, the police department reports 0 instances of problems in these things.
What about Jim's idea of a third category?
I think you have to think about it more, and I think it might just sort itself out because again, I think we're talking about we'll see what the average number of rental days is and how those break out, but
Yeah.
I think it's already happening. And again, if most of the people that want licenses only want to rent a few weekends a year, then
It'll sort itself out.
they're not gonna, yeah.
It would just fall into the category of a non-owner occupied STR.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and that one, I'm sorry, would be in the cap? Cause I know I rented a place for a musician that was in town in the historic district that was a room in someone's house and was owner occupied. So that should. Okay.
That wasn't what Jim was talking about, though. He's talking about,
I'm thinking then that the vacation homeowner would fall into the category of a non-owner occupied STR.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
they
I'm
would.
okay,
And again, I would say, let's look at this.
because I think it's going to be a long time before we get to the cap.
Right,
agree.
exactly. So we look at this as
So they're
version
not really gonna
1.0. Right, and we can fix it if we have a problem later.
Right.
And the advantage, it would be something out in writing to be able to kind of go through rather than
Yeah.
go back and forth.
So do you guys want to nominate 2 people to be on this ad hoc?
are you ready for the ad hoc or did you want to have the draft ordinance?
That's not agendized.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Didn't you say you wanted to take a whack at it before we do the ad hoc?
Well, yeah, and I think.
I mean, if
we-
you have a not decent, that was the wrong term. If you bring a draft, I feel like we're kind of close. If you bring a draft ordinance back to us and then we assign an ad hoc, I feel like we might get further away.
I was just thinking about
Or we
staff-
just come back
staff
to you
time.
guys.
Would it save staff time
Right.
to create a committee now?
So maybe we just agendize, you pick an ad hoc and then we just go there.
Yeah,
Not
if
do
we're
another
gonna
council
do
session.
it, because it doesn't make sense for us to spend a whole other meeting and then do an ad hoc, I don't think.
Well, we can't do an ad hoc tonight.
Tonight.
Right.
No. Yeah.
We would take it to the ad hoc vote here. So, okay.
I mean, if.
Can
if
we
this were-
agendize it next time? And then if you bring us a draft ordinance and we're close enough, then we may decide not to.
All right,
Derek,
we'll-
we're asking you.
we'll talk about it.
If we had it agendized as a possibility next time of assigning an ad hoc, and then we felt we were close enough and don't assign one, is that okay?
if
You
we
can
have-
agendize the appointment of an ad hoc at your next meeting, correct?
And not appoint one?
You can just decline to do that at that
Yeah,
point.
okay. So put it on there just in case.
I was just trying to, if we're going to do that, try to save some staff time and money by doing it sooner rather than later.
What does?
Use the ad hoc committee to come up with the draft ordinance that you want at the next meeting.
It doesn't seem like we're that far off.
But I think Jim's point, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, is that if you bring in two new people from the planning commission who haven't been in on the
You're
conversation,
just starting from.
they
scratch.
may want to go back to ground zero,
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
a
not
good
what we
point.
want to do.
That's a good point.
Good point.
So let's put it on the agenda, and whether or not we actually appoint an ad hoc will be determined by how we feel about the draft. It may just be good enough and we'll just push it forward and that'll be the deal,
All right.
if that's cool with everybody.
It'll be a working document
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we can all work, yeah.
But
Right.
that way we got the option. if We want to.
You good?
So,
Yep. Everybody
Need a
good?
motion?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay.
It was just
Direct staff.
discussion. Yeah. Okay, mayor and council member report. Susan,
I have nothing to report.
Jim,
No, and I'm gonna miss the fire district meeting tomorrow because I have to go out of town.
did we settle the park bathroom thing? Is that tomorrow then?
Sure,
or Wednesday?
Maybe Wednesday.
I'll let you guys know tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Jim, is there anything at the fire district meeting that,
No, I don't think so.
okay, I could go, but
No.
Okay.
Every meeting that, though, the chairman brings up the issue about the where the palace lot that just has the temporary fence around it.
Right.
Just-
Well, maybe can the
Just
fire district help obligate the owner to do a better fence then?
No. I don't think so.
We asked. Didn't work.
I'm only just throwing it out there because, so that I can say that I threw it out there.
Can we put, oh, this would be future agenda items. Did we already do that?
Nope, we're not there yet.
Okay, sorry.
Julia,
Done.
Dan?
I don't have anything. I just, we're going to come back and talk about agenda items.
No, go ahead and do that now.
Okay, I've got two things that, I know when I wasn't here last week, there was some conversation about the treasurer appointment and all that business. It sounds like that didn't get settled. Maybe it needs to get back on the agenda. Does that make sense?
I don't think it does.
No, I think
It was heard and there was no motion there, and we had a quorum. I don't know why you'd bring it back again.
Well, it was heard and there was no motion on that, but I don't think that we resolved any of the questions that staff needed clarified for the audit process, right? I don't feel like we had any resolution. We didn't have a motion, the suggested
Well-
motion, but I don't think that we
Well, okay, the.
answered any questions
the
or
reason
resolved
was
anything.
Agendized whether staff should move forward with putting it
On the
on the ballot to eliminate the treasurer's position as an elected position. And there was no motion to do that. So.
Is it a
what
done
was
deal?
Not resolved. I don't know.
Oh,
Well, there's a whole list, I think, of the staff's concerns about, what correct me if I'm wrong. I know we had another meeting discussing the audit, but I believe there were issues brought up with the audit about, how the process is. And I didn't feel like we had an answer about whether or not to put it on the ballot, but I don't think that we really defined how to better describe the position, I guess.
Yeah, because, I mean, even in the minutes, no motion was made to direct staff to prepare a resolution which would convert the city treasurer position from an elected to an appointed.
Right. There was no motion, but there's 2 questions in the minutes that I asked that definitely weren't answered. So,
Okay.
I don't think that there was necessarily resolution. I think that if anything, the discussion brought up more questions for me that I feel
Okay,
need to be answered.
That's fine, but I don't want to think it's appropriate to bring back the question of whether it should be, if that position should be eliminated as an elected position. We settled that.
Correct.
Why would you
Again,
bring it back that again? That's
there-
what or is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't think we need to bring back necessarily that resolution, but maybe
I mean,
bring
there were-
back that
there were
item for
3 of you.
discussion.
There were only 3 of you there and there was no vote taken. So I think it's up to you guys what you want to do.
I
Well,
don't have
I
any
wasn't
question.
there, and if the council is happy that it's been settled, I wasn't here, so I'm not going to force or ask you to do anything. It looked like, and maybe I misunderstood, it looked like maybe it needed more airing out and more discussion.
There was actually quite a bit of discussion and we had a lot of input.
There was
With the 3 of us here and the quorum. I mean, I understand that
Mhm.
you would have questions for that, but I don't think to bring back that resolution proposal needs to come back.
I think there was a whole lot of discussion about how the position offers another non-staff eye or hand in the process, and that was really most of it. But there were several questions about what is actually done. Kathy brought up a bunch of points about, she was bringing up how city staff shouldn't make the decisions about investments. And I don't know if you recall, I asked Vicky if she makes the decisions about investments, and she said no. Tom and Mason brought them to us, so we're in fact making them. To me, the whole thing just became more circular and convoluted after we went through that
Let me jump in.
conversation.
We're starting to
Yeah, Derek,
re-debate the
let's-
issue. So
yeah.
if you want to have a further discussion, there's nothing that prevents you from calling the matter back up.
Claire, if you have questions like that, I would support putting it back on the agenda and revisiting it because now I have questions because you have questions and you were here.
Well, and I had questions. I brought up that Plymouth had approached me asking for some information about how we do things, and I couldn't really answer. And then I went back and looked after our meeting, and they ended up, now they no longer have a treasurer. So that was a question we had. We had some questions about, if the information to Vicky or whoever the treasurer is comes from anybody but the finance department, is it really another set of eyes? It's not really independent at that point. It just kind of went around, and I left more confused than when I started. And then we also Kathy again brought up some really good points about,
Again, we're kind of
that we
talking
should-
about.
We're starting to talk about it.
Okay.
This
And if you want to bring it
doesn't
back
feel
up,
right.
we
So
absolutely can, but
I
we need
think
to
there's-
agendize it.
And
I'm going to say one more time, though. The question was, should the treasurer's position is currently an elected position, should it be made an appointed position rather than an elected position? And there was no motion made to do that.
So we
So
can
I
bring
don't know
it,
why-
yeah, if you want to bring the
bring it back.
matter back, we can do that.
But if we brought the matter back, then wouldn't that be saying, well, I know we voted on it, but we're going to
You,
We
go
didn't
over.
vote on it.
yeah,
But there was
you
no
just,
motion.
you didn't
didn't.
make a final. Excuse me, there was no binding
My-
decision in it.
my
There
bad,
was no
yes. So
real
there was-
proposal. It
So
was
the decision
discussion.
was no motion. The decision by the quorum was no motion.
Okay, you can bring the item back for further analysis or rehash. It's not, you weren't debating an ordinance or a formal proposal. It was really more of a discussion item. So if you want to bring it back for future discussion, and rehash it, you absolutely can do that. There's no limitation.
I would like
But-
to hear what Claire has to say, and I would like to bring it back.
I'd like to bring it back too. I'd like to, you know,
I have some questions still.
so how do we as a group, how have we agreed we're going to do this if it ever came
Staff
up?
can simply bring a report back to you.
Okay,
And
but
present
I
it
mean,
to you.
so 3 members is that we want to be respectful of, you know, the,
You've, 3 of you have given us direction to bring it back, and we can do that.
okay, I just want to make sure we're doing everything correctly here. All right. The other thing was, and I don't know if you guys even talked about this, but it was on the agenda and I don't think I saw anything about it, was the surveillance business. That whole
That
piece of work.
That
That
was
got
tabled.
Continued, it's.
Did that
coming
get tabled?
in
Yeah.
Your next meeting.
Okay. So,
It's on the list of future agenda items during Tom's report.
oh, was it? I'm
It-
sorry, I must have missed it.
Yeah, I believe I saw it.
Okay, all right,
We ran out of time that night.
okay.
I guess my only report is we're duck racing. That's all. City attorney's report,
No report.
information correspondence.
That's on December 31st, 2025, the February, or it should say February from date 2026.
What page is that, Vicky? What page of the packet?
Well, it says February on the top, but down in the middle it says December.
Oh, it's just.
On the treasurer's report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who does that report, Vicky?
That's Vicky's report.
Right, okay. So the correction, okay, I'm just seeing who we're directing it to. Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Just wanted to note that the correspondence was duplicated, so it looked like in a lot of emails, but it was doubled.
There are a
basically.
lot of.
Yeah, I figured that out after I said, hey, I think I just deja
I
vu.
think I just read that.
Apologies, we don't usually get so many emails. We're figuring out a process to avoid that in the future.
Right.
Can I do an agenda item now?
I guess so. Can she add an agenda item?
I would like to put on the agenda the Main Street fire scar, I guess we could call it, and how we like possibly helping to get a better fence, maybe do some sort of mural, and then possibly even does anyone communicate with the owners with regard to the plan? And do we have any?
I'm sorry, what property are we talking about?
Sutter Creek Palace.
I think that's in process, and we've gotten emails from staff in the visitor center about how they're working on a mural
Yes.
project for it. And
Well, maybe we could just put on the agenda in
Date.
the
An
report.
update.
Yeah.
It's a private property. It's up to the owner, like how much money they want to spend on a fence. He's agreed to let the visitor center put up some images, but it's not really a council decision, I don't think.
Is there anything within our planning department that covers property that's just left vacated after an event?
I mean, we passed our nuisance ordinance last year. You could say it's a nuisance, I guess, but that would probably be about
Does it not fit in that some way, shape or form?
Yeah, if we think it's a danger to public health and safety, that's the purpose of the fence, though. So,
It's just a real shame.
So I'm just wondering, do we have any backbone or do we have any response? Or they could leave that vacated then forever?
it's can't really have a discussion about it right now, right?
No, but I'm just wondering if we have an ordinance to cover something like that. I'm not asking to discuss, just if we have.
Should we put on the agenda discussing if there was ever that problem, what we could do?
Susan, how about for now, just for now, because we just gave them a whole bunch of work. If Tom includes, since it's not we don't really have authority over it at this point, if Tom includes in his next city manager's report, update from the visitor center on working with the property owner and seeing if they're getting anywhere. And,
yeah, I could try to find out
The
We're-
carrot versus the stick. I think
Yeah.
that's the.
Well, we did, Lisa was talking to him about this stuff, and I know that I sent her in the direction of kind of our resident historian at the school, and they were digging up some pictures, so something is happening. Maybe we could get a report on that before we make a whole new agenda item, if that satisfies you for now.
When we had that big windstorm in December, it raised a lot of on that fence got pushed out. So just keep in mind that if you try to build a solid wood fence there around that, you've got some engineering issues. It's not just a matter of just nailing
Yeah.
up some plywood.
It
on
would be
that.
pretty expensive.
It's-
Yeah.
It's not a, it's a big, it would be a big deal. Well, it's chain link and canvas now.
So we adjourned.
Right.
They're still talking.
Okay.
Okay, are we good with that for now? Okay, then we're adjourned. Yeah, we can agendize, just telling him to build something out there.
Well, that's why is there a city ordinance that prevents this to be legal? Yeah.
Or what?
Also, I don't know.
You feel like we're pretty close?
I don't, but
Really? I feel like we could write the ordinance.
yeah, I think maybe you're doing a good job of just being like pushing it on that.